Bigwig's on the radio. Shut up. It's Gaming Podcast Audio.
Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast. And what do you know? It's been a big week in gaming. I'm integot for episode 39 for Sunday, the 11th of April, 2021. As always, I'm joined by the official P3 himself, nominated and approved Xbox Hall of Famer and #1 challenger to the mantle of the greatest Xbox RPG player in the world, Swinny.
Hello.
And the game-loving, grind-hating, $1 coffee drinking, gamer, anti-gamer, and interrupter-in-chief, Mike.
E.T. go home.
For the audio listeners, he doesn't realize that there's a lot of audio listeners. He looks like E.T. at the moment because it's cold. In this week's show, we'll be discussing E3 2021 is officially confirmed as a digital event. Another Bloomberg bombshell. The Last of Us is getting another remake. And we reminisce about our first video game memories. As always, if you want to reach out to us on the show, reach out to us at BigwigPod on Twitter or at bigwigpod@gmail.com.
Or don't. We're not your moms.
Now, we have some corrections. So I've got the first one, and I think, Swinny, you've got the next correction. So the first correction is, I referenced the developer that got a Vita game, like that was developing a Vita game that had to get cancelled, that they got a dev kit. It wasn't a dev kit, it was a test kit. See how much we care about detail on the show?
Does that actually change any of our thoughts about that?
No, but I like to be correct. And then I think I know where you're going with the next one, Swinny, and I feel like it was me who was the culprit, but go on.
So the second correction is that the CEO of PlayStation is not a fictional CIA analyst, because Swinny called him Jack Ryan, not Jim Ryan.
Oh, it was you who did it. Okay. I was actually going to listen back to the tape because I saw this note and I'm like, oh man, did I call him Jack Ryan?
No, it was me. It was all me.
And okay, I'll give you a bit of an insight into my stubbornness. I actually did some Googling on him to see if he sometimes is called Jack Ryan. To be able to go, wow, he's sometimes called Jack Ryan.
Only to his close friends.
And I didn't even, it wasn't even necessary. We should call out that Arcane's PS5 exclusive Deathloop has been delayed from 21st of May to the 14th of Sep in 2021. And Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga won't make its Q2 2021 release date, which has actually been delayed a couple of times, that game.
Yep. So, and it's a game that I'm super actually pumped to try.
So am I.
It's great.
I am actually as well. I think I'll enjoy the Lego version of the episode 7, 8, and 9 a bit more than that. Well, probably mostly 8 and 9, to be fair, than the actual movies.
Can I also point out, you may notice that I don't get many corrections. And I don't think that's because I don't screw up. I think it's because I screw up so much that you guys have just given up trying to correct me.
Well, we correct you live on the show. Mostly.
And there's that too. Yeah.
And also, I don't know,
makes my life easy.
Have you ever listened back to any of our segments and the clips on YouTube or anything?
I have.
Okay,
Have you?
All right.
Yeah. I'm actually shocked about that.
Yeah, twice.
Have you got gloves on, Mike? You've got
Dude, it's cold.
It's scary the way you look.
It's really cold.
And what have you been playing, Mike?
Man, well, I was going to say, I am wearing gloves because I'm about to go on a murder spree. No, okay. I'm not. But I did play more of LA Noire for our little game of some other year.
Nice. On the Switch, right?
On the Switch, yes. Still digging it. Really good game, but we'll talk about it later. And I got back into Cyberpunk.
Oh.
Very briefly. It's been a really busy week, so I haven't had much time to dedicate to as many games as I wanted. But back into Cyberpunk, missed it. I don't care what anyone says. Loving that game. It's really cool. Awesome characters, great graphics, sweet gameplay. I love that game. It's really good.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, it reviewed really well on PC. It should have launched on PC. I mean, we've gone over this.
Should have only launched on PC.
Yeah. And that was patch 1.2?
Yeah, that was with 1.2.
Did you notice any difference?
Well, the biggest difference I noticed is they patched the glitch where you could sell a painting for 4,000, buy it back for 5. Keep doing it. Now when you sell it, it costs you 9,000 to buy it back. So I guess they figured that one out.
QA.
So I did kind of know pissed, they may have fixed that when you're talking about it, but I
didn't see it in the list.
No, so I'd heard that because when people put in the solutions in True Achievements under the under the achievement to buy all the cars, that
Mm-hmm.
was there, but then I'd read some people say that they could still get something else to work. So I was like,
Oh.
I just don't have enough details to correct you live on the air.
See, that's why I remember telling you. I remember telling you there's this glitch, and if you want to get the achievements, you should play the game now so you can get the achievements because it's much easier with the glitch for stuff like buying the cars. But too late now.
But
You're gonna
Swinny
have
has
to
those
actually play the
macro
game properly.
controllers anyway that you can grind out money.
Oh, I don't know. It's not that easy in that game, given how many cars there are. But anyway,
I'll jump in because it's a natural segue. I was also playing LA Noire. I finished the game.
Whoa, okay.
And
Nice,
now
nice.
I'm about, and I know you guys hate this, I'm probably like well over halfway through the main quest of Skyrim.
Wow.
And then,
why would we hate that?
Well,
We hate the fact that you have so much time to play games.
oh, no, not at all. I will go to it soon, like with some of the games that got announced this week or released this week. I've only been exclusively playing Game of Some Other Year games, and I really
Same,
want to play
pretty
Monster
much.
Hunter Rise. Like I've woken up wanting to play it, and I'm like holding back
Wow.
because I feel like I'm not going to get around to playing these other games. No, it's more just Skyrim. Playing the main quest feels like you're playing Skyrim wrong, and like I even venture off because it's a great game in that way, and then I'm like, no, I've got to get back to the main quest. What am I doing going down this mine? So yeah, that's a cool game, and then also Deus Ex. Human Revolution. So, I said to you guys,
Three at a time.
I booted it up. Well, I've finished LA Noire, so now I've moved on.
Yeah.
It didn't click with me initially, Deus Ex, but now it is. Like now I was like, oh, okay, yeah. The combat feels a bit more natural, I guess, than it did right at the start. So, yeah, I'm getting into it.
It's interesting because when I originally played it, and whenever I play those kind of games, I always play stealth based. So it's slow, calculated movements, look at everything, find everything. But I feel like if I'm going to play it now again, I'm just going to rush through it and all guns blazing. So it's going to be a different experience.
So I always
I think it's cool.
go on, Swinny.
One of my coolest experiences in gaming is actually doing so you basically bundle up a whole bunch of hard achievements in one go with that game. So you play it on the hardest difficulty, you don't kill anyone, and you don't get noticed by anyone, and you don't get trigger any alarms.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
That was awesome.
Would be hard.
That was a really, really awesome playthrough.
Wow.
I'm like one of those people that thinks they're going to change. So I always start in like a stealth build or stealth class or anything like that, and distance killing, range killing, and then I just go back into melee mode. So I did that with both Skyrim and Deus Ex. I've even got some augmentations, and I'm like, I'm never going to use these because I just go in and shoot everyone and kill them all. So that's me. How about you, Swinny?
All right, sit back and relax.
Oh, and can I just say,
I've got a bit to talk about this week.
You sent us a very cryptic message. You had some kind of receipt from EB Games, which is like GameStop in Australia, and you wouldn't tell us.
I may or may not cover that as part of my essay that I've gotten.
Oh,
okay.
you
what I've
may
been doing
cover
this
it.
week.
Go
Please.
on.
So first of all, just wanted to say that I'm very sad this episode this week because from what I can tell, there's no new Kemco release fate.
Oh,
They've
is this the
broken
first
it.
time they've like not released a game?
Pretty much, I think it's been like 2 years straight where they've done a monthly release and they've missed it. So
Maybe they're
I was
pregnant.
quite sad. So in terms of what I've been playing, because we recorded a bit earlier last week. There's been more time. There's been like 9 days worth of Swinny game time here. But so I mentioned to you guys that
Sorry, I keep on interrupting, but I was going to say it's like a month's worth of regular game
It is.
time.
It's like an extra 25% or something.
So Assassin's Creed Pirates finished that off, and on the show last week, I was saying, man, I may only need one more ship destroyed or something to finish my
Yeah, I
entire
remember that, yeah.
game, my entire gaming resolution, and it was 2 ships. 2 ships out of 1,000. I
nice.
needed more.
Well, sorry,
Like-
why was that not in the correction? Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, all right. Let me just type it in our run
Can we
sheet now,
restart the thing?
and then we'll restart the whole podcast.
Yeah, okay, all right. I'm just turning off Zencaster now.
So as part of that, I finished my entire first gaming resolution for Assassin's Creed, which is awesome, which is getting all achievements in every single Assassin's Creed game. There's no exceptions there. So
It's done.
it's done. Now,
Wow, how do you feel?
It will get uncompleted when the Valhalla DLC drops, but then obviously I'll just fill in that gap
for a day.
When it comes out. So yeah, pretty much.
There's a neighbor in our cul-de-sac who is a mad Assassin's Creed fan, and I told him that you'd finished every single thing in every single Assassin's Creed game, and he just said, "Well, he must be single." That was his only reaction.
That's I'm writing that note down. There's a potential episode title right there. Okay, so all right, but that's just like that literally happened right after the podcast. So the stuff I've actually really been playing. So been playing a bit of Fallout 4 and Skyrim on PC. So both of those got released on the Windows Store.
It's part of the Bethesda purchase, yeah. That's cool.
Correct. With new achievements lists and stuff. So I've been playing a bit of them, which is cool. Going back to those, Skyrim had already started on PC like a month ago, so I've just restarted on that. I played through all of the Outer Worlds second and last DLC, Murder on Eridanos. I was originally planning on reviewing this, but then I just delayed it a bit. It's about honestly, I really liked it, but it's there's some things that I'm not a fan of with it. It was about 6 to 8 hours doing most of the content, so pretty beefy DLC. Absolutely love the setting on the floating gas planet with floating islands and everything. Really cool quests, great use of the whole murder mystery thing, but it just for me it doesn't nail the landing narratively, and it's quite disappointing how it plays out, and it makes a lot of what you do earlier in the DLC kind of feel meaningless, which was a shame, but it's still really worth playing. And then I did, the achievement speed run on console that I did afterwards took about an hour, which was pretty cool. And it runs really, really well on the Xbox Series X since they did the upgrade with 60 frames.
That'd be nice.
So it's really, really nice. And I also played through a game that was also added to Game Pass recently that I never played, called Undertale.
Oh,
is it good?
So I've never played Undertale. Always been keen to give it a shot. Obviously, a lot of people love this game.
That's an understatement, I think.
Yes. Honestly, it's not my kind of game, though. It's very charming. It's incredibly, creative. It's got some awesome moments, great characters, very funny. I can see why people absolutely love it, but for me, just the way that they meld the gameplay elements into it just doesn't really click with me. It commits what I consider like a cardinal sin of an RPG, which is random encounters during puzzle gameplay. So you're running around stages doing puzzles, but then you're also getting random encounters while you're doing it. And that's the whole game. No, not every area has random encounters, but generally speaking, it's a puzzle game with RPG encounters in it that is obviously has its own very creative way how it handles that. But and it just kind of started. It just really frustrated me, honestly. But look, it was a fun experience. I just think it would be much better if they had instead opted for on-screen enemies that you trigger encounters with, kind of like your Chrono Trigger or something like that. So that is not currently categorized as an RPG, but it will likely get changed on True Achievements.
It's not an RPG on True Achievements. I'm
not yet.
I'm amazed. That's crazy.
So the weird thing is, okay, it's
what is it categorized as?
Well, first of all, it just got released, so it always goes through a period of community voting and stuff on that, and that stuff hasn't played out yet. I think it's just currently got an adventure tag or something, and it will likely get tagged as that, which means it will count towards my my goal as well, which is pretty cool. But it's it's fun, but it's just not for me.
Okay.
And the last couple of
Can't
things...
wait for all the feedback comments on this one on YouTube.
Yeah, I know, because people don't really like that game. There's no cult following of Undertale. It didn't click for me either, to be fair, though, so we're really going to get blasted.
Look, I'd say its initial impression is not fantastic, but I think it really picks up.
Okay.
So the other couple of things I just wanted to cover relate to that receipt that I sent.
Yes.
The receipt.
So don't worry, it's not that exciting. But the first one was a game by the name of Immortals Phoenix Rising.
So you got it after I sent you the sale.
On what platform?
I just picked it up. It was I picked up a cheap pre-owned copy. So
on what platform? Sorry.
Wait, Mike, pause for a second. He's asked me to
Xbox.
keep an eye out for Immortals being cheap. Blah blah blah. I've done that. I sent it through when it was cheap, and then he's just bloody bought a pre-owned copy anyway.
Because I just saw it when I was out walking around.
How much for?
So it was, I think I got it for like 35.
Okay.
That's not bad. That's not bad. On Xbox, obviously, right?
It's 38 new, I
Series
think.
X, yeah, but I was like, okay, I looked at it, I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll just pay that.
It's coming to Game Pass next week.
Well, we've talked about...
It's definitely coming to Game Pass. It's definitely coming to Game Pass.
First of all, that Ubisoft doesn't have a history of adding many titles to Game Pass.
But that one they will. Can we make a bet? It will come in the next 3 months.
I'm not going to make a bet about that.
Okay.
So with this game, I've only played the first couple of hours. Haven't unlocked all the mechanics yet. Like, the mechanics are very key to that game in terms of how you move around the environment and everything. I'm really, really loving it. I think it's fantastic.
You make me so angry, Swinny.
It's the contrarian.
Mike, this game
that's
is
not
like...
a contrarian. The game, people like this.
This is like a carbon copy of Breath of the Wild, a game he hates.
Yeah, I know. That's...
And then Ubisoft makes a very Chinese style
clone of it.
clone, and he loves it.
This feels very different than Breath of the Wild. It does. Now it's
I can't comment. I haven't played
it's got a lot of elements of it, but it feels very different.
Sure.
It feels like it's a whole different ballgame. First of all, it doesn't have stupid bloody weapon degradation. So
okay, that's a big pro.
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's so anti. Anyway, we'll cover it later.
Yeah, let me talk about this game. So, look, the combat's really, really cool. It's tight, responsive, feels great. It's got some light RPG mechanics, but I haven't unlocked all the systems yet. So we'll see whether or not I'd be interested to see if it actually builds a lot more around the progression of your character, or if it's simply about just like a skill tree and stuff and loot and things like that. But really, really cool. The one thing it borrows heavily from Breath of the Wild is one of the things I'm not a fan of yet. We'll see how it goes. Is the stamina meter. I was just never a fan of that. So
okay.
But yeah, the last thing I'll talk about is the other thing that was on that receipt, which is
Receipt.
Hori Switchpad Pro.
Oh, dude, that's so funny. I was gonna get one. I was literally gonna order one on Amazon the other day.
So I saw it there, and it was like $10 off in EB Games. I was like, bugger, I'm just gonna buy it. And it's really neat. What can I say? It's really, really cool. I have to get used to the buttons, though.
I don't get it. I've been telling you guys for ages how good it is.
No, I'm not saying you're wrong.
Yeah, I know. I just bought one.
Thank you.
I bought one based on.
No, I finally
feedback.
feel validated. It makes it so much better to play handheld.
So I have to get used to the buttons though, because it feels like you have to like push them harder than like the Switch buttons are so small when you're playing handheld. So that I was trying to play Mario Maker on it, and I was missing jumps because I just wasn't used to it yet. But other than that, that was just me. You just have to get used to it.
You get used to it, yeah.
I love the D-pad.
It feels cheap is the only thing. Sorry, it feels good, but it feels cheap.
See, it doesn't feel cheap
construction.
At all.
To me, it feels like one of those Power A, those like third-party controllers in that sense. It just it's not bad.
I mean,
it's responsive. It works fine.
I mean,
it doesn't feel like the quality you get from
Mike. It is a third-party controller, so I don't understand.
I know, but Hori are pretty good. Hori are pretty good with making really good products.
So I think, it's really, really cool. It is a little absurd when you look at it though. It's because they're way bulkier than what I was expecting, and that's not bad when you're actually using it. But it looks a little crazy. Like, I don't know if I'd want to sit there on a train playing this.
I've done it on the train. Don't worry about it.
It looks a bit ridiculous.
No one's gonna care.
But so
you're single anyway. What are you worried about?
Well, let's just bring that back.
Have you been on the train recently?
Yeah.
What's that got to do with? I'm just saying, if I was going to play this on a train,
you don't even.
I'm saying if I was going to play the Switch on a train, I don't think I'd probably use the Hori Switchpad Pro.
Wear a mask, so no one will know who you are.
So that's been my week. So thank you for listening. I shall now leave the podcast. Bye.
No, please come back. That was actually really good.
Swinny, I was debating about. I was so close to getting the Hori Switchpad Pro. That's what it's called, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'm also debating about getting this fixture clip for the Pro controller. So I sent you the link.
Clip?
It's called.
What's that one again?
It's called the. I don't know what the actual. It's called stupid name. Fixture S1. So it's like a clip for the Pro controller, and then I just sent you the link in the chat. it's like fixturegaming.com. So you clip in the Switch and then you can clip in the Pro Controller. I don't know if you can see it, Swinny, or Swinny committing to the bit and being quiet.
I'm trying. I'm trying, but I was also just looking something up quickly as well.
Sorry. Don't want to interrupt you.
You'll explain. I've gone to your link. Shut up. Yeah, so what, for the Switch?
Yeah, because I definitely want to move away from playing with the Joy-Con. So it's either going to be the Split Pad Pro or this Fixture S1 thing.
Yeah, it looks good. Like, it looks better as a stand. It looks better as a stand. By itself
okay,
well.
So I thought Mike was doing a bit, and he was not. He was on mute, and he didn't realize.
I did not realize I was on mute. No, I'm just looking at it going, this is really neat. I like the look of this.
Fixture S1, right?
Yeah, the Fixture S1 looks
really
people
cool. Rave about it who have it.
Although,
people rave about the Hori
there's
one as
third-party ones for a fraction of the price. So
No, it's not. It's not.
No, you can get fake ones for cheaper.
Yeah, but I've looked into them. They're not like that good quality.
That's good. Okay.
So I was just the thing I was quickly looking up was when I was at the store, the guy was telling me about the Monster Hunter Hori Split.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just double checking to see if that had been announced. So yeah, it has. But I was just checking that. That actually looks pretty neat.
I think it looks horrible, the design of the Monster Hunter Hori one.
I've got the Demon
I don't
X
think it looks horrible. I think
one.
Actually, yeah, no. Now look at it.
Honestly, it doesn't even matter.
I like how Swinny is such a contrarian. He's like, his brain just says, be contrarian. No, you're wrong. And then he looks at it and goes, oh yeah, shit.
No, I was only looking. I was only looking at one side of it. The other side looks a bit.
But hang on, let me get this straight. You are not going to use this thing on the train. So literally, the only person that will see you play with this thing is you. What does it matter what it looks like?
What we're just talking about it. I'm
no,
not
but you guys are like, oh no, that looks horrible. I'm not going to buy it because I don't like that one. It looks shit.
I didn't say that. I've already bought one. Why would I buy this? Anyway, enough about this.
All right. That was you, Swinny. We can move on to the news now.
Yes.
All right, beautiful.
Okay.
All right, so our favorite friend at Bloomberg and our majority of the content on the show, Jason Schreier's dropped another bomb. So in his recent article, it delved into Sony's obsession about blockbusters, and it has made some big revelations, actually. So one revelation is that the sequel to Days Gone was pitched and rejected, and that The Last of Us is getting remade again. But it looks like actually...
Well, no, it was remastered. Now It's getting remade.
Oh, thank you, Mike. I was about to say that. So, the article really does center a lot on the Visual Arts Service Group, which, as always with a lot of the AAA games, they will use third-party studios. We saw it recently with CDPR, a studio in Canada that they actually ended up buying that helped them finish out, well, quote-unquote finish Cyberpunk for launch. And Visual Arts Service Group has helped Naughty Dog and other Sony entities finish games, including Last of Us 2, and they were starting to do Last of Us Remake themselves, but the article goes into depth about how, as Last of Us Part 2 finished, more and more Naughty Dog employees came along and then started to really not throw their weight around, but by the virtue of the fact that some of them actually worked on The Last of Us, the first game back in, the early 2010s, it's pretty hard to argue with someone about the vision of a game when they've actually created the game. So they very much felt like they were sort of getting pushed on the outer. It also goes into Sony Bend, which is the studio behind Days Gone, a game that was poorly received critically and probably partly due to themselves, where there was a very buggy build that everyone reviewed. So it's turned so many people off that game, a lot of reviewers and a lot of influencers. But supposedly the version on PS5, which is available for free as part of PS Plus, is pretty playable. People say it's a pretty decent game. So that was also pitched to have a sequel. It's been rejected, and it looks like they are making a new IP or a new title. So it's kind of interesting. Swinny, there's a lot in this article. Like, what else was there that I might have missed out?
Look, this article, obviously, its insights are fantastic. Like, Schreier is, usually always, great.
True journalist.
I do think that there was some comparisons within the article that just felt a bit odd to me. It was. I don't think it was his best work. I think there was some of the stuff that I'm just like, that just feels a little petty. I'm just trying to find exactly what it was. Mike, while I'm looking that up, what are your thoughts about a Last of Us remake?
Yeah, I don't get it, to be honest. So there was the remaster that was done for PS4. Are they actually? Because I found the article was a little thin on details. Are they actually looking at completely remaking it, as in a whole new, using an updated version of the engine, new assets, or is it just to get it slightly visually remade?
No, they talk about it having a new graphical engine.
I don't know why they would spend the time and effort to do that. I mean, number one still looks great. You can play it on PS4, you can play it on PS5. It still looks fantastic even to this day, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know why you'd waste all those resources remaking something like that when you can use those resources to work on number 3 or another game.
Well, I
don't know what I'm missing. Am I missing something?
No, but you know what? Like, because I had the exact same reaction as you. I was like, oh, really? Like, they're gonna do this game again? Like, but I do wonder if it's, some of this is maybe PR and timing, because
for the show.
No, more just, this game will not come out for maybe 3 years.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe in 3 years' time, if they go, there's a remake of Last of Us, people will go, oh, cool. Okay. Like the remaster came out like 8 years ago.
Okay, fair point, yeah.
You know what I mean? But the fact that we know now, it just kind of makes you go, oh, really?
Well, so the only thing I can think of is touching on that point is that they're doing the TV show.
Sure.
And I believe it's based loosely. I'm probably gonna have to do a correction next week.
No, it's based on the first game.
I think it's based loosely on the first game.
No, it
so
is.
you can kind of see why they would.
Different angles. Like they've already said that some stuff won't be the same, but yeah.
So you can kind of see why that would make sense. If it becomes a popular show, which it probably will become a popular show given
maybe
what The Walking Dead was like.
But do you think like the timing of that? Look, I know obviously TV shows can take a long time to produce, but this seems like this was often running from that visual arts service group team before this TV show was a thing. So it's like to say that it's they're doing this because of that. I think it just maybe is the timing's probably it's not coincidental, but it's just probably going to work out well for them if they.
It might work out well, yeah. But honestly, I don't know from an executive level why they would have made that decision.
Oh, but it makes sense though. It sells. Like, and now that they're basically giving that game away for free in lots of capacities, or next to nothing, even if you buy it brand new, doing a remake and changing a few things, let's be real, like a bunch of people will buy it. Yeah, like that's what all the data has told them. So from a business point of view, it's super obvious why they're doing this. But from a consumer point of view, it's kind of just boring, and you feel like it's a bit of a waste of resource, especially if Naughty Dog have taken it over again. It's like, really? Is this what they're going to work on? Like something that they've already done? Doesn't feel like, to your point, Mike, at the start, it's like, what new are they going to say through this game? Feels like nothing.
So this ties into the thing that I was just looking up in an article that I found a bit strange for Schreier to raise. So it's about that whole focus on, blockbusters versus the whole creative, more niche titles and things. And he brings up Dreams.
Oh, yeah, dude. Can I just say, I had go on. Because I had the same thing. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, he basically, likens the fact that they didn't promote Dreams to the fact that Roblox is a huge, massive game that's like one of the biggest games in the world, saying, kind of almost insinuating that if they'd promoted it, potentially could have been Sony's Roblox. And I'm just like, Roblox is such a, like, I don't think you can compare that. Dreams is a very different thing than something that's like obviously targeted at children, and is YouTube, everywhere in YouTube, like Roblox. Like, it just felt like such a stretch to kind of make that comparison.
And I think we're all fans of Schreier. And like for me, if I had a journalistic tier list, it would just generally be like him, and then maybe 2 tiers empty, and then a whole bunch of other journalists, and then Kotaku at the bottom in trash tier.
Hey, but Patrick Klepek's pretty up there.
Well, I'm more saying Kotaku as an entity. I mean, Schreier was at Kotaku, and I still would have had him in the top tier. But that was a stupid point. That was, I don't know, just very, like, I'm surprised it didn't get edited out, because It's almost like someone who doesn't even know what Roblox is. Like, honestly, like, I feel like it's not even that different if you said, oh, if they promoted it differently, it could have been like Minecraft. It's like what? It's totally different to Roblox. Like, the whole model of Roblox is different to Dreams. And then, the only way it makes sense, his point, is if he basically says, if they made a game like Roblox, it could have been like Roblox. Like, it doesn't make any sense, his point. So, yeah, that still stood out really well.
Let's just move on. I mean, we're not here to critique other articles, right? It's more...
Yeah, we are.
What's
going on with The Last of Us remake?
No, well, this story is also about that article, So
okay,
I think that this whole Sony's obsession with blockbusters, look, it's obviously working for them in many ways, especially financially. But from, as you're saying, Integot, from a consumer standpoint, it does kind of feel like the creativity is kind of a bit bare bones, when we're not getting those niche titles. But it's honestly, at the end of the day, it's business. What can I say?
It's all business numbers, man.
Yeah, there's a cool book called Blockbusters. It's like a relatively older book now, but I actually think the book has a lot of value into what the next sort of 10 years will look like, because there is something very powerful about mega hits in whatever field you're talking about, and its ability to draw people in. You'll see it through, like, Michael Jordan with the NBA. You have someone who's just so much better than everyone else, and like more than a generational athlete, more like a once in a lifetime athlete, that it brings people into the medium itself. Like, they weren't even, interested in it. So, I mean, from that theoretical point of view, it does kind of make a lot of sense what Sony's doing. Like, I'd love to think and, be able to do this experiment of, like, would I have even bought a PS4 if it wasn't for some of the huge mega hits that Sony had, like, God of War and things like that, where I was like, I feel like I have to get this console just to play these games because they're just, like, so good. And same as Nintendo, right? Like, with Zelda and Mario, like, how much do they draw in people from the start? And then, all the rest of the games come from that. So
I feel really... Oh, sorry,
go, Swinny. No, you go.
I was going to say, I feel really bad for fans of Days Gone to hear this news.
Yeah.
Because if one thing is almost a sure bet is that Sony Blockbusters will get a sequel, and to hear that news, it's probably a bit of a kick in the nuts.
I have to say, it's not shocking though, but and it's funny. I really do think the whole game has died because of how it launched, more from a review perspective, like with a broken game, and it got terrible scores on Metacritic. But the build that was released like 2 weeks later was totally different, which is like very strange the way that they did that process.
I'm looking forward to playing it. I think back to the point about Blockbusters is, I think in order to create some of those games, you need to put so much money behind it and so many resources and so much time that from an executive point of view, you need to justify where you put that money into. It's a huge decision to make. It's not like, you develop a game for a year or something with a small team of people and you can afford to pay them, no problem. And I think they still need to do stuff like that, because there's a lot of really cool gems, really cool indie stuff that Sony, backed, or that was released on their platform specifically, which were massive hits. But I think from an executive decision, you can kind of see how they go, well, if we're going to invest millions of dollars into a game, potentially more than millions, tens of millions, even hundreds of millions, they need to justify that cost. So that's why they go for the big blockbusters and they go for the cash cows. Same as Nintendo, like Nintendo, we talked about this before, they sometimes go out of their way to try a new IP or try something different, but they still just go for the cash cow. They still go for the big Mario games that they know will sell. They know they can justify pumping all that money into development for.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a huge gamble when you think about
that's
it.
True.
In so many ways. There's just so many studios that went bust because the game didn't, get received as well as they thought they would.
And I know I can come across as pretty cold sometimes, but I do feel sorry for the guys and girls behind Visual Arts Service Group, just with like that feeling of, hey, this could be something of our own, build it through. Especially if you're doing like a remake, you kind of you know the bones of the game, and you can build from there. So it's, from a risk perspective, it's a lot less, in terms of, will it be a hit or not? And it gets you sort of, your feet wet in terms of building a game yourself, and then to have it sort of through a transition, through almost osmosis, not stolen from you, but taken from you. And then, so many of the people leaving Sony because of it, it would really suck. Like that really sucks. So yeah, and it sucks about the days gone too for people who are looking forward to it. All right, let's move on to the next news article. E3 2021 has been confirmed, and Swinny is flying over as our correspondent live for the digital show in LA. So following leaked plans back in Feb, the ESA has officially announced that E3 2021 is indeed happening as a digital-only event. So last year's E3, which came after the pandemic, was cancelled completely, both as a live show and no online show to replace it. Whereas this year they have organised an online event that will be free. That's all they've said so far about that. There have been other reports that maybe there will be components that will be paid, but they have not spoken about that. It's only been said as free so far, and it's going to run from the 16th to the 15th of Feb 2021 this year. They have had some large companies say that they will be a part of E3. So Nintendo, Xbox, Capcom, Konami, interesting, Ubisoft, Take-Two, WB Games, and Coke Media.
Coke.
No, it's not. It's Coke. You idiot. As always, Sony, which has already pulled out of E3 before anyway, have not entered back in. And there are some other major studios or publishers that haven't been participating in E3, although it feels like they have, but it's more just they've run shows on the side, things like Devolver Digital, Activision, EA, etc. So, but they will run, I'm sure, some of their large announcements in the E3 timing window as well. Swinny, are you going to watch all of these events live?
Well, he has to. He's our correspondent.
Exactly. You're our correspondent.
I somehow been given that job without my knowledge, but that's okay.
Voluntold.
Well, look, I'd hope that we all are interested in watching certain parts of it, especially the conferences. Yeah. Generally speaking, the conferences in the past have run pretty early in the morning over here, but not so generally maybe 1 a.m., 2 a.m. or something. So sometimes I'll manage to do it, but it really depends, obviously, on the timing and their schedule. But yeah, I'm pumped for some game announcements. Honestly, it feels obviously 2020 hasn't helped in a lot of ways for game development, but I'm excited to get some really cool stuff on the horizon. So.
Yeah, I think it's starting to normalize a bit, because I think last year with the cancellation of E3 and just how the pandemic is hitting everyone differently, it really almost thinned out the news in the sense of you just had constant small announcements all the time, which, for a show like ours that's weekly, it's good. But in the old days, I think there was a concentration around E3. I'm sure that people could have announced things earlier, but they were sort of like, we're 3 months away from E3. Why don't we schedule it for E3 and just have a big bang announcement then? So yeah, I think that's going to be interesting. It's weird for us, just selfishly as a show, because it's going to start basically when we record, around that time. So, I mean, it's good and bad, because it means that the following week we can do a pretty accurate playback of all the things that got announced at E3, because we'll have the time to do it. It won't be like a mad scramble. Unless they have some major announcements earlier, maybe some shows gone earlier, maybe Activision and EA will do some announcements leading up to E3. I'm not sure.
Well, I've heard that the week prior, at least a number of days prior, there's going to be media stuff happening.
Oh,
so
okay, interesting.
We'll probably, I wouldn't be surprised if we see some big stuff leak in leading up to that weekend. So.
Are we officially part of the media now?
No.
Damn.
We're outsiders, independent outsiders, who just piss off everyone.
I've
already been banned from Xbox PR.
We're the fringe.
Yeah, don't get near Kotaku.
No, that's easy to not get near it. I'm actually really looking forward to it. I like E3. Forget about its whole history and run and leaking media. Yeah, or would you want to be in the media? They leaked all the media details the other year when they ran it. I don't know if you remember that, Mike.
No.
Their website was not like secure, so
Oh, wow.
people got access to personal phone numbers of journalists and everything.
Oh, actually, yes.
Yeah.
I do remember that. There was a huge issue with that. Yes.
And pretty much every single female journalist had to change her number.
That's nuts.
It's disgusting. But I'm really looking forward to it actually. Like I was thinking about it in the car this morning. I was like, look at Nintendo, because Nintendo is going to be a part of E3. They actually weren't a part of E3 last time. And it's kind of exciting to go, oh, okay, maybe they'll, announce Zelda 2 or like Breath of the Wild 2, I should say, So I'm already getting into that kind of hype, and it's still 2 months away. So no, it's cool. I like it.
Yeah. And they've said free online event, and then as you mentioned, there's been rumors around potential, like paywalls and stuff. And I think there's wording that's since come out in media, like one sheets and stuff, that pretty much clarifies that there will not be paywalled content. I can't remember the exact,
right?
I can't remember the exact wording, but it sounds pretty set now that is not the case.
Okay, good.
So business-wise, I think that would be a really stupid choice on their part. Just because I think with last year not running a digital event, I think that was a mistake. And then, doing that this year, I think you're just going to create a lot of bad will with people. I think the smart way to do it would be allow media to use things like Stadia or GeForce Now or, the online streaming things to allow them to play the demos. For people to hear about, the media got to play the demos. I want to play the demos. And then for next year, them to go, well, people want to be able to play the demos. It costs money to run that. So we're going to charge some money to do that. I think that's the way you'd play it out from a business sense if you're smart. And maybe that's what they're doing.
No, that makes sense. And they do have the tiered access for media. So they might actually do something like that.
Well, that's what that week, especially that week leading up to, like they 100% will be doing that. Like they will, do things like your parsec and your.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they've announced that though, because I was listening to some media, like gaming podcasts, but from media companies, and they're not sure at this stage if that's how it's going to work.
Look, I'm pretty certain they will be doing that.
I totally agree with you, Swinny. Totally agree that I think that's what's going to happen. That's what. It would be shocking if they didn't do it like that. And I think it would be really cool in the future if you could just play it like that. Like, I'd pay for that. I'm not sure. Like, how much would you guys pay for, just say it was like 1 week's access to the demos and, unfinished games?
I wouldn't do it.
You wouldn't pay?
I have to do it now. I have to do it now because I have to do it for the show. But otherwise, I wouldn't do it.
Well, that's the thing.
I could wait another week. Who gives a shit?
Oh, I definitely wouldn't do it if I didn't have the podcast. But Swinny, how much would you pay for 1 week's access? What would it be the max number?
$20.
Swinny.
For a 1 week access, are they so?
It's like to demos and games that might never come out. And
are they games that they announce at the event?
Yeah.
That we haven't heard. Then I don't know, like $30 maybe.
Yeah, I'd probably go about 30, 35 or something. I feel like 50 is crazy.
40? Would you do 50?
No. Even for the show, I feel like 50 is just like a joke. But I don't know, 30, 34.95 Australian. Yeah, I'll probably do that.
$4.95.
I don't know. Just looking in my mind, I'm thinking, I probably would do that in the end. But
$19.95. Nah. That's it for me.
How much?
$19.95.
Okay, fair enough. You are cheap. So, no, you know what? And I'll do it as a segue. So people who are watching the clip on YouTube will need to search for our coverage on PAX. And it's probably going to come out in random time. So just watch the full show. But we'll go to the next story, which is PAX. So PAX Australia. We did talk about wanting to get tickets to PAX. So the first time PAX Australia, which is running from the 8th to the 10th of October in Melbourne, that the site basically crashed under the demand, so we couldn't get tickets first round. So Mike and I are looking to go. And then this time, the site basically crashed again, but in a different way. So... we're not going to have any access to PAX because they're going to hate us after this segment.
Shh! Don't tell them what you did.
But we are fiercely independent on Bigwig in gaming. So they said that they're going to build all the infrastructure from scratch, all this kind of stuff. That's their wording. I didn't say that. They said we're going to build it from the ground up. That's what they said. Now, that's not true. So
Of course, it wasn't true. We knew that wasn't going to happen.
All the ticket infrastructure was exactly the same. Because I actually got through most of the process last time and then it crashed. So it was exactly the same. The one thing that they did is they used another provider to put a queue in front of that website. So the Info Salon's website, which is the ticket website, they put a separate provider's service and whacked in some like JavaScript over the top of it. And then basically as soon as you went on that website, it would just throw you into a queue. And then it would like give you some cookies to say, yeah, you're cool. You're allowed to go on it now. Bang, it'll put you on it. But the problem was people joined. There was like 4,000 people in the queue from the start when it went on sale the other day. But, me being like a little, tinkerer in the old days.
That's the word for it. Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, this seems like silly. Why are you forcing me to do this? I don't like, and then it's failing. All right, let me play around with it a little bit. And yeah, basically, by accident, of course. I didn't do it intentionally.
Oh, it just fell on the keyboard.
Exactly. My fingers fell on the keyboard in certain patterns, and I was looking at the traffic that was coming in through my browser, and oh yeah, maybe I'll block that, and I'll block this, and I'm on the website, and I was able to buy tickets straight away. So yeah, I bought. People are gonna hate us.
Can I just say, because I was on the PAX site, like looking for imagery and stuff for this segment, and if you go on the PAX, by the way, if anyone from PAX Australia happens to come across this clip, here's your chance to fix this. You go on the PAX site, which is aus.paxsite.com.
Yeah.
Then they've got 3-day badge, 80% sold out, book now. That button takes you to the 2019 events. On the homepage, it's the biggest thing.
No, it doesn't, does it?
Yes, it does. You click on book now.
No, it's doing 2021 for me.
Book
maybe
now.
They fixed it.
Well, maybe it's cached, but for me,
if you click book now. Okay, I click book now.
Takes you to PAX Australia 2019.
It does. Holy shit. You're right, Swinny. Yeah. That's so funny. No, because I clicked on the 3-day thing. You're right. There you go, PAX Australia. We should reach out to them and they'll like us then.
Yeah, they'll actually let you go in.
So Mike, did you get a ticket?
Well, I think I got a ticket through Integot. Yeah. I mean, I sent him money for it.
Yeah, you did get a ticket.
I have no idea if I got a ticket though, but I think he did. He said he got 2 tickets. Otherwise, he just took my money and ran.
Which I'm likely to do as well. That's interesting, Swinny, that it's like that. That's funny. So yeah, and all that like tomfoolery that I did, and it took hours for people to get tickets because they're stuck in these queues, and then it would bomb them out when they went to pay. So then they had to start it from the start again. And then we just find out that there's still tickets available for the 3-day events. So, yeah, the mad rush wasn't even necessarily.
There's still the 4,000 people waiting in queue.
Maybe. I'm just seeing if I can message them directly, but they don't have their DMs open, PAX. So
you gotta learn how to slide into their DMs.
Well, I can't because they're not following us. They barely follow anyone, and I'll just have to message them directly on Twitter.
Maybe it was done that way just to like cull the herd. Like if you couldn't figure it out,
you don't deserve to go to PAX.
So you guys looking forward to it then?
I am.
Yeah, totally.
And why it links in with the last segment is that I was like, oh, maybe they'll announce Breath of the Wild 2 at E3, and then they'll have a playable demo at PAX. Ooh. Damn.
Yeah,
possibly.
That'd be cool to see if I like it more or not.
Look at this guy. So Swinny is not a real okay, let's let the audience in on this. So I'm in Sydney and you two are in Melbourne. We'll only go as far as that.
Hence the heating.
Yeah. Well, it's cold in Sydney as well. And so I have to fly down. I've, family, kids, blah, blah, blah. All this drama to set it all up. But, I'll do it for the show. Do it for the listeners. Do it for the love. And then Swinny, on the other hand, easily could get there. What is it, 20 minutes to get there for you, Swinny?
If that.
Yeah, about 20, yeah.
And just like, nah, forget about it.
Not doing it.
What do you mean? I got my tickets.
What?
Yeah, I was on there. I'm like, I'll just buy a ticket.
You know, we should have thought that the fact that he's on the site, he never does anything unless he's going to...
That is a good point, actually.
No, actually,
That's some shitty detective work from us.
I've been on the PAX Australia site many times to get imagery, so that wasn't a lie. But,
there you go. Yeah, look at that.
But you got tickets.
I just went on there, and I'm like, oh, I'll buy
wait,
tickets.
did you get tickets to the 2021 and 2019 one?
But I was like, oh, that wasn't hard. I just bought a ticket.
Oh, the hell. Meanwhile, Integot had to do all these hacks, change his network traffic.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, my God. Write all these Python scripts. Go on the roof of his house, fixes his antenna.
I was actually thinking...
Communicates with some satellite.
I was thinking, geez, should I even mention this story? But the fact that people can still buy tickets, I don't feel like it's that bad now to mention it.
Yeah.
But I may have not mentioned it if it was sold out. I might have refrained. Because I was like, ooh, when I saw, oh, shoot, people might miss out. This is probably not going to look so good. Oh, cool. So the whole Bigwig crew is going to be there.
Yeah.
I'm not going with you guys. I'm going by myself.
You dickhead. He would actually do that as well.
He probably would too, yeah.
Did you get 3-day tickets or just the 1 day?
Sorry, I was adjusting my chair. I just bought it for the 1 day. I don't know what day it was.
Which day?
No, it was 3 days.
Oh.
I just keep messing with you guys.
Well, that's exciting. Well, let's wear some Bigwig shirts. And then anyone who's listening, they can come up to us because I love talking to random people.
Oh, that's
totally no, it's true. He does, especially outside schools.
That's totally going to happen.
What's going to happen?
Whatever. Let's move on.
People are super friendly at those.
All right.
When I was there...
You have to make a bet now, Swinny, because you're like, as if that's going to happen.
This is the second time you wanted to bet, man. You've got a problem.
Well, you got a big mouth, then you got to back it up.
Doesn't mean I have to bet about it.
Well, you got to back it up. Back it up if you make a big claim.
I prefer to run my mouth.
Wait, what's the bet? What's the bet?
Well, he's saying no one will come up to us.
No, people will come up to
us. So if
someone
comes up to us...
Yeah, because we're going to look like three idiots.
All right,
wearing
let's
3 stupid t-shirts.
All right, we're all looking forward to PAX Australia. So that's...
Well, 2 of us are more than one of the others. I won't say who.
We're going to force him to wear a Bigwig shirt.
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the next story. So this week, Nintendo shadow dropped a new Battle Royale game following on from Tetris 99 and Super Mario Bros. 35, Pac-Man 99. And basically, shadow dropped and released the very next day. It actually has a lot of really cool mechanics in terms of how it works. So I'm a big fan of Pac-Man, but the Battle Royale version, it's quite interesting where collecting the pallets, it's not just the sort of obvious thing where you can eat the ghost. It actually then creates, sort of like other little... Well, I can't remember what the name of it is in its Swinny. It's almost like little shadow ghosts or sleeping ghosts or ghost train.
If you read my notes, it says
you've written it all down. Yeah, you can create a ghost train. I don't know. It just looks really, really cool. But as I've been playing all the Game of Some Other Week games, I've actually not even played 1 second of this game. So I'm hoping one of you two guys have actually played this.
Nope.
Mike?
Yeah, me. Sure. Yeah, you know how much I love these games.
You got to do it for the show. How about you, Swinny?
Well, first of all, you know my thoughts on Tetris 99 and Mario 35. So honestly, I was like, Integot's going to be the one to play this.
I'm normally the one who does.
Are your thoughts the same as my thoughts?
Yeah.
I'm normally the one who always plays these kind of things.
Thank you.
For the show. And then this week I couldn't. And you guys did me a dirty.
I'm always happy. Wow. I'm happy that these things come out for the people that love them. They're just not my jam. And honestly, I've said it before, I like the look of the Stadia, what is it, that they released in November, Pac-Man Mega Tunnel Battle. That was a 64-player Battle Royale, but that looked cooler to me than this. But this is obviously in Nintendo's or Arika's style, so I understand why it's different.
Yeah, I actually like this one a lot more, because I don't like how the other one, you go through the tunnels to go to the other stages, whereas this is still kind of like Pac-Man, but getting the power pallets, you can send ghosts to other people. So I don't know, it looks really cool. It looks like I'm definitely going to play this. And one thing I should shout out to, and I know people who are old like me will appreciate this, it's actually one of the advantages of having it as a Joy-Con, because the Joy-Cons have buttons instead of a D-pad. Now, a D-pad usually makes a lot more sense, but actually having buttons for this is way better for Pac-Man, because it means that you can send a very specific direction. Like, normally with like analog sticks or even D-pads, because it's an 8-way gate, it actually can have, if you're pressing down left, what is the game supposed to interpret that as when it only has 4 directions, right? Now,
Well, it's got a bit more than 4 directions.
A D-pad?
Because it can interpret the exact angle.
Not a D-pad.
Not on a D-pad, of course.
Yeah, I'm saying a D-pad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because D-pads are 8-way, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
analog in a weird way is kind of easier, quote unquote, because it's the angle, like you're saying. But on a D-pad, these kind of games aren't as good, in my opinion, as a 4-way gate. Like the arcade sticks that only allow up, down, left, right. So it actually is a cool thing. I'll probably play this on my Joy-Cons, and then therefore, why am I getting a Hori Split Pad Pro? Because that has a D-pad on it. No, so I can't believe it. I was literally thinking of playing this game before the show, like delaying the show for like 10 minutes so I'd played this game.
Would you have expected me to play this game after?
I thought
same.
For the show. I thought for the love of the show.
My thoughts on this and how much I love the other ones.
Yeah. You know what I'd try out 100% is if they do a Donkey Kong version. Because I love Donkey Kong.
But,
where you could do it with the barrels.
Oh, 100% you could do a Donkey Kong version.
That'd be cool, actually. Damn, I like that. Now, I hope you've willed that into existence.
That's a lot of people.
It's going to come.
A lot of people have come up with that idea.
No,
it's
you
not
did.
me
you did.
originally.
Exclusive on Bigwig.
Exclusive Bigwig.
Actually,
Donkey Kong 99.
And because we're nerds and we're playing through the Donkey Kong Country series, so we've only got one more game to go, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. That's episode 52 on the 11th of July. I also noted that it's the 40th anniversary on the 9th of July this year.
Oh.
For Donkey Kong. So maybe, Swinny. Yeah. Donkey Kong 40.
Well, I'd but I would have loved to get if they did a Game & Watch of that over the Game & Watch Mario Brothers, but it'd be cool if they did that as well, of course.
So you got to buy another Game & Watch?
Well, if it's Donkey Kong, it's probably better to play, but we'll see. If it comes with an alarm, maybe.
That's
no, that one. That's the third one.
I'll do my research this time.
Hey, so I get why you've got Pac-Man 99 and then you've got Tetris 99, and I get why they have Mario Bros 35. But I don't know. I feel like there's a missed opportunity to have the whole series as 99.
Oh, okay. That was your whole point.
That was my whole point. Now they missed it because of Mario.
God, do you know how long that would take with the way that Mario 35 worked? Oh my god.
Yeah. No, but it makes sense because it's 35, right?
I guess it would. Well, of course it makes sense why it's 35, yeah. And it would make sense, like you said, for it to be 40 with Donkey Kong. So that could be kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that's too many as well, though, to be honest, if the barrels are coming at you, because it'd be like an insane amount of barrels. It's cool. I'm looking forward to playing this. Very disappointed that you guys aren't Pac-Man fans.
First,
we're Pac-Man fans. We're not fans of
exclusive
online.
On the show. No one has played it.
That's the exclusive.
Wow, what a great announcement! If you're finding this on YouTube, please give us hell for it. Leave the most negative comments you can. Give us all the thumbs down you possibly can.
Can I just say, I don't know why.
We'd appreciate it.
I don't know why, but you guys get so much more hate than me in the comments, and I
feel like I
feel like I'm much more hateable, and I know that, and I own that, and I'm fine with that.
That's weird.
I'm an old person. Well, I'm accustomed to myself, but
I don't feel like I've had as much hate anymore, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Swinny gets the most hate.
He does.
It's only because
of Assassin's Creed.
It's only because of one video.
One video.
No, I think you've got some hate from other stuff, but yeah, I've got a list. I've got the hate list. All right, let's move on to...
Feels good not to be the most hated one.
Yeah, let's move on to the Swinny segment. So Mass Effect remasters. Swinny, do you want to take this away?
Yeah, so this week, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, we've got just a boatload of details. Essentially everything we would want to know about what they've changed, they've told us now. And alongside that, IGN has an awesome 10-minute video going through their hands-on experience with, big time fan of the Mass Effect series, detailing everything, which is great as well. So I just quickly wanted to cover some of the stuff that we already knew. So, the game's coming out on PS4, Xbox One, and PC. There's no dedicated PS5 or Series X version. Includes all the games, plus 40 DLC. Doesn't include a Pinnacle Station. Developed on Unreal Engine 3, just like the originals. It's 4K, HDR, textures upscaled by AI. We know it's running on 60 frames a second on PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and PC. Don't know if we've had confirmation yet on the base consoles. There's a shared character creator and standard default Shepherd models across all the 3 games now. And Mass Effect 1 is getting the most changes with essentially massively reworked visuals and entirely new HUD redesign. And there's also no multiplayer for Mass Effect 3. And there's a whole bunch of specific Mass Effect 1 details that we also knew about, like the fact that elevator sequences basically can load way quicker now and you can skip them or stay in there to listen to the flavor announcements from when you're in the elevator. Dedicated melee button, improved cover system, inventory improvements to basically bring in line with what the better PC version was like. Just a whole bunch of changes that we kind of already knew about, but this week they've actually essentially just given us the rest of it. And some of this stuff is really, really cool. And they talk about it in that IGN video. And some of the stuff is, well, we'll talk about it. So some of the big highlights from the article that they put up on the EA website is that there's a new unified launcher and universal settings for all three games, which is great. So you only have to essentially, set your controls and everything within one place, which is fantastic. There's a reworked achievement list that basically they bundle it all into the trilogy. Obviously, that means there's a lot of redundant ones across the games because there's cross-game progression. So something that might be, hey, kill 250 enemies, that's now across all three games, which is really, really good. There's also native controllers support for PC, as well as 21 by 9 support for resolutions. But now we actually get into the nitty gritty and some of the stuff that I was really, really wanting to hear about, which is what they've done to Mass Effect 1, specifically gameplay wise. So they've detailed a lot of stuff under what they call combat tuning. So essentially, they've reduced some of the RPG combat mechanics, specifically around accuracy penalties, to make the game play more like Mass Effect 2 and 3. As part of that, also aim down sights or ADS has been made more accurate, and there's improvements to aim assist and things like that. And also like weapon sway. So sniper rifles had a huge weapon sway in the first Mass Effect, so apparently that's been removed. So it sounds like it's just been taken out. They've rebalanced a whole bunch of abilities. All enemies take headshot damage. And a big thing that I'm glad that they've confirmed as well is that it still uses the ammo cooldown system, which means you don't pick up ammo like you do in Mass Effect 2 and 3. It's just all weapons cool down, but they cool down much faster now. So they did previously mention they're making improvements to the Mako controls, but now they've actually detailed, and apparently they're still working on a little bit, but they've massively improved the controls. The vehicle feels weightier, has a faster shield recharge, and has an additional boost to basically mean, often in Mass Effect 1, you'd get stuck trying to scale a mountain and you'd just be, oh my god, this is taking forever. So they've got a boost to really help with that, and also just get around faster as well. And you don't die instantly in lava anymore, you just take damage. So that's cool. Now, there are some other changes, but I just wanted to, throw to Mike. What are your thoughts about this so far and how it's shaping up?
Yeah, really, really positive. I mean, I like the combat tuning stuff that they spoke about. The fact that he can do headshots is really, really cool.
Well, you could before, but this is to all enemies now. All enemy types.
So that's what I meant. So I think that's a huge pro. In terms of the abilities rebalancing, I'm going to wait and see how that's actually going to play out, because some of the crazy stuff you could do that from memory were almost game breaking. If they rebalance that to be a bit more fair, I think it's kind of cool, but at the same time, you might miss out on some really crazy things that you used to be able to do. And the cooldown system being faster, I remember you could make some crazy tweaks where you'd get a really high, powerful gun, and some of the mods you could put on it would basically make it overheat instantly. But if they kind of reduce stuff like that, you could get some crazy, cool, powerful weapons. So I think some of that stuff's really cool. The Mako stuff, I was one of the people that actually didn't mind the Mako all that much.
Isn't
to be
it
honest,
Mako?
But Mako. But I'm a fan of improving anything like that. So it's huge positives, I think. And the actual gameplay footage that IGN had showed off was pretty cool, both graphically and also just little tweaks. And one of the things I think you're probably going to talk about next is some of the level design tweaks with the geometry and stuff, which I think is really cool. Just they're like more like quality of life stuff in that sense, but I think it makes a huge improvement, especially for people that only started playing the game now. And one of the biggest things, I think, which was kind of, I think, maybe talked about earlier, but it was definitely featured in this video as well, was that really long elevator loading scene. So there's an infamous part where there's this elevator, and really the reality is the elevator wasn't there for looks. It was mostly there because they needed to load the assets.
Well, it's anytime you're in the Citadel and jump in an elevator.
Yep. So. And they had to do that just purely from a performance perspective. Whereas now you can pretty much just press the button and you're in, because it can load it so much quicker. So I think that's going to be a really cool quality of life improvement. But at the same time, it's, you know, it was cool back in the day, the memes it would create, and you kind of got a little bit of relaxation as you're going up that elevator. And it introduced a bit more realism because, you know, it takes time to go up an elevator. So I don't know. We'll see how stuff like that goes. But overall, super positive. I'm really looking forward to this one.
You know, due to the elevator stuff, has anyone ever built like a 3D model of how big the Citadel is? Because like the speed that the elevator's going, it's going to be like kilometers tall.
I don't know if they did.
Oh, well Citadel is gigantic.
It is gigantic. Wow. It is like kilometers tall. But yeah, it doesn't really maybe make sense the way the elevator actually works. But yeah.
And Swinny, apologies if I missed it. So the game's coming out May 14 this year, 2021.
I didn't bring that up this time, but very soon, which is
a month away. It's kind of crazy, actually.
You're looking forward to it probably almost the most, integot.
Yeah.
Really
and
played it.
You know what's really funny? Because I actually do have Mass Effect 1 and 2 on 360, and I played only parts of Mass Effect 1, so maybe 5 hours of it or so. And I actually hated the Mako, the way it drove and things like that. Like, absolutely hated it. And I didn't like the combat as well. Like, I felt it to just be really clunky. And I just, put the game down. Like, it's kind of annoying me, so I'll pick it up later. And then, 10 years later, I have not played it. So I know that for purists, and I'm sure if I played the game, I did play the game, but if I completed the game when it came out, I might be like, I don't like these changes. But honestly, someone who's not attached to it, hearing about some of the changes they're making, the quality of life improvements, for me, it's just going to give the game way more chance of me falling in love with it. Yeah.
And it's interesting because I don't know how you feel about it, Swinny, but to me, Mass Effect 1 is probably my favorite in the series and one of my favorite games of all time. So it's going to be interesting to see it change. But I think they're all improvements from what I can see, so I have no issues with it.
Yeah, we've mentioned it before when we talked about it. Mass Effect 1 is easily my favourite of the series, but I just quickly wanted to cover some of the other changes they're making before I give my thoughts around the combat tuning stuff. So we talked about the geometry, so the IGN video actually spends quite a bit of time on talking about specifically the Novaria hub and how there's this wall that they essentially put in there just to allow the game to load its assets better and stream it in. And essentially they said, well, that wall doesn't need to be in there anymore. So they're actually making some really, really good geometry changes and actually adding just a lot more flavor to the environment with new massive light fixtures and everything. So they've done a lot of work in the actual look of levels.
Pads on the couches. Let's not forget that one. There's padded couches now, which is good. Makes sense.
So one of the things that I'm actually really, really happy about is that Shepard can now sprint out of combat, which makes just getting around, especially in the Citadel, it's going to be much better. They've taken away class-specific weapons, which is an interesting choice. I'll see whether or not I like that or not when I actually go to play this. But
when I saw that, Swinny, I thought of you. I was like, Swinny's going to have an opinion on this.
So, anyway, so the inventory items, this is a huge one. This is the kind of improvement I wanted them to make, and I'm so glad they did. You can essentially tag inventory items as junk and then bulk convert to Omnigel or bulk sell to vendors and everything. And you can also sort vendor inventories, which is great. You can now independently command squad mates, which is just fantastic. The XP progression, this is interesting, has been rebalanced. So you essentially can get to higher level and get high level builds within your first playthrough, whereas before it would take multiple playthroughs to get to that point, and because they've removed the level cap for that first playthrough. So they've in terms of the other games, so Mass Effect 2 and 3 haven't had as much done, but they've made Mass Effect 2, they've made a lot of the outfits look a lot better, and they've also increased the ammo drop rate, which is fantastic, because that's one of the things I didn't like much about a Mass Effect 2, is that sometimes it just felt like you're running around trying to search for this random ammo thing that you saw 3 rooms back. And specifically for people using sniper rifles, they're really, really increasing that. And with Mass Effect 3, they're not making a lot of changes to that because it was probably the most polished visually, especially, and probably gameplay-wise when it came out. But interestingly, the Galaxy at War feature, so that's where it basically says, okay, how ready are you to tackle the Reapers? And it factors in decisions from previous games, but also all the stuff you're doing in Mass Effect 3 to a readiness meter. That meter was also previously influenced by multiplayer stuff, so obviously that stuff is no longer in there. But now they've made it so the content from the first 2 games adds to that readiness a lot more. So if you only play Mass Effect 3, you actually essentially have to do everything in the game to get that meter up. Otherwise, they've made that a lot more impactful for people playing through the trilogy. So now that we've actually got through all the details, which is a lot, it's great. The fact that they put this out there before the game came out is fantastic. I just wanted to talk about the combat tuning part. This is what I was concerned about as someone that loves Mass Effect 1's gameplay the most. But I am very happy to hear that they're making these changes for everyone else. I've said that before. I'm happy they're making these changes, but it's just, from reading it, it's not the kind of thing I wanted them to do. But I also haven't played the game yet. I could very much change my tune when I realize, okay, this is a better experience as, when you're playing the game. The thing for me is the fact that they're reducing things like accuracy penalties. That is kind of what it's becoming. It's essentially becoming a shooter with RPG elements as opposed to RPG with shooter elements, which...
So you mean like Mass Effect 3?
Well, 2 and 3.
And 2, yeah.
And as I said, it makes sense. It's what everyone else wants. I don't know how I feel about it yet. If I would have read this news back before they'd showed any footage or, when they first announced it, I would have been probably quite like, what the hell? Were they changing it so much? But since I've seen all the work that they've put into the rest of it, and I've kind of had time to really, I guess, not be petty about it, I understand it's for the better because you've also always got the ability to play the original. It's not like that game's going.
Yeah, exactly.
So with the, as you said, integot, the class specific weapon restrictions, I don't know how I feel about that yet because it's been a while since I played the first Mass Effect, so I don't know if that maybe that was just a minor annoyance and it's better to actually give all classes the ability to use them.
That was a big annoyance for me, I think. I don't like games that restrict you like that. I get why some games would do it, potentially, but in a game like this, it didn't feel like there was a reason for it, if that made sense. Well,
the reason is that you've got to build, and it's an RPG, so
absolutely.
Like a lot of RPGs, builds will only be able to use certain equipment.
But I mean, what it comes down to is ultimately personal choice. If you want to still feel that you want to have a build, then you can artificially restrict yourself by just not using those weapons. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without having the game force that upon you. So I never saw a reason why a game would do that. That's why, if I think about just a really quick parallel to games like why Skyrim I quite enjoyed, it's because it doesn't restrict you with anything. You build your character however you want to build, and you become proficient, and it grows in the direction you want it to, as opposed to restricting you just because you made a stupid choice at the start of the game.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But I think that great work that's been put into this. I really hope. They said, just in general, one thing I didn't mention is across the trilogy, apparently they fixed a crap load of bugs, which those games, especially Mass Effect 1, were buggy as fuck. So I'm really, really, really glad that they were
still great. Like, we say, but it wasn't buggy, like unplayable. Put this game down. This is trash. It was just mostly kind of funny. Mostly, I'll just reload that bit. It was really weird. It never, to me, I remember playing it, and maybe because I was so engrossed in the game and visually it was so amazing that I never really felt like it was a deal breaker, the bugs in that game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, when you're hovering above the galaxy map in the Normandy for the 10th time, and you're like, "Oh, I've got to reload my save file. I hope I've saved recently."
It may have been a little annoying.
Yeah, so I'm glad they're fixing that stuff.
It is amazing how the love for the game can really determine the fandom being on one side of the equation versus the other. Like the Skyrim side of, it's kind of funny that there's so many bugs, or the cyberpunk side, where it's like, oh, this game is broken, it should be pulled from the store. It's kind of the same stuff, but just based on the love of it. You know, can I just say, like, so I'm definitely going to get this game. So whatever I say now, you know, it's sort of in that knowledge as well. But whenever they were showing like how the game looked to how it looks now, and when I see those type of things, I try not to look at which version they're talking about and just look at them, right? And often I found myself liking the original 360 version.
Wow.
And I found it was like more artistry of the lighting and how they did certain things than, you know, putting this kind of up-res on it and just, you know, blasting new visual effects on it. And it's like, oh, okay, I actually like the 360 one, not the new 4K version. So, but like I said, I'm going to get this game. I don't think I'm going to get it day one, honestly, unless it comes down in price.
That's the interesting thing, isn't it?
It's too expensive for me. Like, it's coming down in price a little bit, but
I'm
I feel
gonna
like
have to get it.
it's going to go
price.
down in price later. But I'll just see how I'm placed at the time because it's only a month away. I still think I'll be playing probably Dark Souls at that time. So, but yeah, it sounds like we're all going to get this at some stage.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Is it day one for you, Swinny?
No, I think that I'll probably just wait a little bit. I might buy it, but I probably won't play it, if that makes sense.
What? You should wait and then buy it when it's cheaper.
Well, it depends. I don't know. I have to check it if there's... I know they've got the fancy special editions, but I just have to check if there's any like smaller like steelbook editions or anything like that.
There were,
I know what you
I
mean.
think, but I think they might have been sold out.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
I'm an
Let
interesting
me know
vote
if
as
you
well
ever need
because
those things because I'll keep an eye out for you. I always see those things pop up.
keep an eye out for me. Because it is one of the rare things that I would be willing to get a different, you know, special edition just because I'd keep it. But see, to me, this is an interesting one because it's a game that I hold so dear to my heart that I feel I only really want to play it when I can do it justice, when my mind is cleared and when I don't have a backlog of stuff and when I don't have all these other things in my personal life and work life that I have to deal with, of which there's a lot at the moment, that if I get the game in the next few weeks, I would likely not really be able to enjoy it properly.
Yeah.
So I feel like I need to probably, for my own sake, save it to like, do you know? I mean, you know what I mean. When you're in that state of mind where you're relaxed and you can really enjoy the experience, and it can take you back properly, and you get that nostalgic kick. Otherwise, it's just going to ruin it, I think. So
yeah. There is actually. So they haven't been officially announced in Australia. There is a crazy sort of replica kit that they're releasing, like a collector's edition for the Legendary Edition.
That's the one we talked about previously, I think.
Oh, was it? Oh,
yeah.
shit.
So
Okay.
Mike went into long detail about that last when we covered it last time. But anyway, that's fine. I think it's time to move on. So
Yeah, no, fair enough. All right, yeah, no, looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. All right, moving on to our next story, Animal Crossing Build-A-Bear. We're all hotly anticipating this. So Build-A-Bear, as they have done, they've done cross-promotions, collabs with lots of different brands, including Star Wars. So my wife has Darth Bear that because you can select how much fluffing you want in these things, and she fluffed it up so much that the vinyl material looks like leather, and every time people see it, they think it's like a gimp, like a Darth Vader gimp bear.
Can you please take a photo of that?
I think she's hidden it because she's so self-conscious about it. She hates when people mention it, and I find it hilarious.
Okay, well then maybe this wouldn't fly, but I'd love that to be one of like the 3 thumbnail images of the whole show.
Yeah, I'll take a photo of it. I'll ask her for it. So they went on sale in the US and the UK. Pre-orders just absolutely got blasted and sold out. It's probably going to be like $70. It's probably 75 Australian. They will be coming out next week for Australia, so by the time we publish it, it'll probably be announced. And unfortunately, I think I will have to buy both of them for my wife. Even though she is obsessed about Animal Crossing, she's not necessarily the biggest fan of Tom Nook or Isabelle. So it's a bit psycho, but yeah.
Like, come on, like, if you're going to do any characters, they're the 2 that you choose. You know?
Oh, 100%. Like, I literally can't think of anyone else that you'd do. Like, who else would you do in that series?
Well, because I don't think he's in the latest one, but I'd like a Mr. Rossetti one.
Mr. Rossetti is in this one, but he's not as prominent. Like, what I'm saying is in the Switch one. not sort of like the older games. It's much more prominent in the GameCube version, obviously.
Yeah.
The one that I like is the guy that does the coffee. I can't even remember his bloody name, but he's not in the Switch version as of yet. So yeah, like as I said, I think these look pretty cute. They'll be released next week in Australia, and I'm sure they'll get sold out pretty quickly. So I have to grab them. And it's a bit weird because in Australia, when they launch Build-A-Bear stuff, it's pretty random the way it works. So sometimes you go in the store, sometimes it's online. It's all a bit over the place. So very, very important news update, Swinny, that I wanted to call out for everyone.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go into the next story. And this relates to Elon Musk somehow. So, Mike, I want you to take this story away.
Okay, yes. So Neuralink, the company that is one of the companies that he's founded, I believe, they created they're a brain implant technology company, and they posted a really crazy video this week of a monkey, first of all, controlling things on the screen with a joystick, and then based on that, they learned which particular parts of the brain which neurons get fired, to then be able to allow the monkey to control parts of the screen with its brain. So they actually unplugged the joystick. The monkey was still using the joystick, but it was doing nothing. The whole thing was just with its mind. Now, they've done these experiments before, but the part that I found quite interesting is the monkey was then playing Pong with its brain. And I found that just mind-blowingly fascinating. So a bit more background. So Neuralink was founded by Elon Musk in 2016. So the whole ability to control things with your mind, they've been researching this stuff, not just Neuralink, but other companies and researchers have in the past been doing this for some time. I think back in the early or mid 2000s, I remember reading something about that, similar sort of concept. But I think what makes Neuralink really powerful and fascinating, it's the fact that it's this wireless chip that can get embedded in your brain to allow you to do these things. So back to the monkey, it's a bit of a stretch.
You've got to clarify.
What do I need to clarify?
The monkey is named Pager. Thank you very much.
Okay, so back to Pager.
Is it a monkey, by the way?
Well, it's a macaque.
A macaw.
Macaw.
Yeah.
Jeez,
No, macaw. Macaw is not the way that I've heard it being pronounced. So.
Oh, really?
No, macaw's a bird.
Oh, okay. Oh, we're all terrible.
It's like a macaque or something. Like
okay.
That. Yeah.
We'll correct ourselves next week, I'm sure.
Yeah, we'll have to have a whole segment.
But it's part of the monkey family. It's not a chimp. It wasn't a chimp.
No, I actually looked up the pronunciation of it, no joke. And yeah, I've forgotten it. So, that's very helpful.
So
yeah, it does seem like it's macaque.
Yeah.
Macaque.
Not macaque.
Go on.
Or is it?
It is a monkey, by the way.
Well, it's a type of monkey anyway. Yeah. So it's like I said, it's not a chimp. They didn't do this with a chimp. They did it with a run of the mill monkey.
I know. I had all these chimp puns for the thumbnail text, and I'm like, it's not a chimp, damn it.
Damn it.
Yeah, we want to be accurate.
We can't use Mike as a thumbnail. So look, I found it super fascinating. The technology is absolutely amazing, but I feel it's a huge double-edged sword. So my thoughts on it are twofold. One, I can see the implications being super positive for people who suffered from paralysis, being able to control things with their mind. That is an immensely powerful idea, and I think it could make a lot of people's lives a lot better. The flip side is, I fear that like any of these types of technologies, once you've done something like this, it just opens up Pandora's box to eventually one day being in some sort of a crazy 1984-esque society where you're pretty much forced to get these implants when you're a child for beneficial reasons, and the ability to control your movements, record what you do. It's insane what this could lead to, unfortunately. So I can see the positives, and I can really see how this could lead to a ton of negatives as well. So I don't know, what do you guys think about that?
You, Swinny?
Oh, well, all right. I'll just say that I think this is bloody awesome. I think this is fantastic. This is going to, if this technology gets to the point where they can make something that can be, distributed at a relatively low cost and covered by, things like insurance and Medicare and stuff
in our case,
for and under national disability schemes and things like that. This is just going to be life changing for so many people.
Yep.
I think this is fantastic. And the downsides, like those downsides, exist for almost every kind of technology.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I think I've seen nothing but awesomeness out of this.
So you see nothing but awesomeness.
Yeah.
See, I see a lot of awesomeness, but I think the downsides, yes, they do exist. I mean, you've got that issue with your mobile phone, but there's a difference between being able to put your mobile phone down to having a chip implanted in your brain that may or may not be as secure as you think it is. There's so many implications. It's insane. I think with something like this, I don't think we can even cover it on the podcast.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit out of our remit, but
a little bit. But what do you think, integot?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's very much like the internet, where I think the internet has done an insanely far amount of good than evil, right? And it's not inherently in itself it's good and evil. It just unlocks the latent capabilities of people and how they are, right? So people are nasty, some people, and they're just exacerbated with the internet and cyberbully you two. Not me for some reason. But look, like I think this, I take your point, Swinny, around people with disabilities, and I think anything to help accessibility is always a good thing. And keeping it on the gaming note, I think everything that Xbox and Microsoft has done with the accessibility controllers has been amazing, and I think all the other developers and sort of platforms should really push in the same direction, or at least allow for Microsoft's sort of adaptive moves controllers and all those types of controllers that they have to be compatible. But I actually think that this is more going to have an impact just on regular folk in terms of removing barriers. And I'm huge on if you remove barriers to things, certain things open up that you never could imagine before. And, like I see people as well, because there's, translating what you want to do in your mind to physical cognitive motion and, fine motor skills and things like that. It can be very difficult, but people can look at a screen and go, I want to move a little bit closer to the edge and get Mario to jump over there and do this kind of stuff, right? But they can't translate that into their fine motor skills. So just something like for gaming, right? Like Neuralinks and things like that. It could literally unlock so many people to play games and interactive media that just, get scared with the barriers that are in front of them, which is like, and I still see it all the time. It's, having one stick to control the movement of a character, the other one to control the camera. It's not intuitive, whatever anyone wants to say. It's not intuitive. I've seen kids, get it, but they have to work on it to understand it. Now, something like a Neuralink, you can in your mind go, oh, I want the character to move forward and I can't see properly, so I want to sort of get a better view on the right. Like your brain can do that like instantly pretty much. So I'm fascinated to see this kind of technology where it will take it. But
yeah, same.
One thing is just the last point, and then I'll just throw it back to you, Mike. And I always say this around VR, the interface and the medium is very, very important. So much, that whole saying the medium is the message. How this will work for a person is so critical. Just like with VR, right? If it's cumbersome, if it's like a chip that you have to implant in your brain, it's not going to take off.
What you do.
If it's something that is like a pad that you can put on the side of your head and take it off whenever you want, that's something that I could see actually working, or people, using, and then that actually taking off. Because people are more than happy to carry like a phone around, a device that's relatively heavy compared to what people used to carry in their pockets, but they get so much utility out of it, they'll do it, right?
Yeah, of course.
So if it's easy, then people will use it, and it'll be massive. Like this could be like the next big thing that to the size of the internet or the mobile phone.
Oh, absolutely, could be. Yeah, this thing's going to be huge, and I do think it's a case of opening Pandora's box, and I think it's already been opened, and I think this thing's just going to, whether it's Neuralink themselves or it's going to be another company, this brain augmentation stuff is going to be massive. And I think back to the point that you were saying as well, Swinny, that we talked about, it's going to have huge positive impacts on a lot of people who currently have a disability. I can imagine, for example, if you lose your arm, let's say, there's existing technologies around that, but being able to actually physically control your hand by thinking that stuff, I think that's an insanely powerful ability to have for a lot of people. So yeah, let's see how this goes. Not just for gaming, but I think for society in general, it's going to be really interesting.
No, definitely. Totally agree. And then a beautiful segue into our next topic. So this actually, I wanted to talk about this just because also it dates back to our first episode of the Bigwig and Gaming podcast.
And what an episode that was. Like
go back and listen to it. Very lengthy.
50 topips or something ridiculous.
You know, the funny thing is it's not even that far from the truth.
43.
So, yeah, this week saw a record-breaking sell price for Super Mario Brothers, the number one NES game, obviously unopened, with a hang tab complete, wider graded, 9.6, extremely high-quality mint copy of the game.
What's a hang tab, sorry?
So basically, in America more so than Australia, they'll have like a little piece of plastic on the back.
Yeah.
And they punch through it, and then that's where they hang. They'll hang the game up, right?
Yes.
Now there's this sick perversion that happens in the collecting community, and I say that as someone who gets a lot of amiibo, so I've got a sickness as well. They want hang tab complete, which means they haven't even punched the hole yet to put it onto the shelf.
Wow.
So it's like this idea that no one's ever touched this game and hasn't even been put up for display. Like it's just been purchased, right?
It's very interesting.
Yeah, I was about to make a joke. That's probably.
I know what you were going to make.
It's
I'm
just
thinking the same thing.
It's the ways that people go like, oh, this very old book. Well, was this the first print run versus the second print run? Oh, it's the second print run. Oh, it's trash. Throw it in the bin.
Yeah, I love that. Collecting is really interesting.
We called it out in the first episode of the show that Super Mario Brothers had sold for $110,000 US. I can't recall what exactly we said, Swinny, but I do think we mentioned things like, Super Mario Brothers will probably be like Adventure Comics 1 and these really classic comics that, it's just going to be so sought after. Well, I think, Swinny, we should have invested our money into the Super Mario Brothers angle because not even a year later, it sold for $660,000 US, which is just absolutely insane. So once you think about, GST and conversions and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty close to $1 million Australian dollars, which is just incredible.
Yeah, that's super crazy. And from a seller's perspective, I mean, obviously it's one of those things that no doubt the longer you hang on to it, the more it's going to be worth. But I think it's like I had a friend who said that he bought some Bitcoins years back, and I do believe him, to buy drugs. He never bought the drugs, kept the coins, and then when they went up back in 2018, him and I were talking. And he's like, "Man, I don't know if I should bother selling these because it's not changing my life significantly enough to cash them out, even if you can cash them out, 'cause it's not as easy as that." He said it wouldn't change his life significantly enough to bother cashing them out, that he might as well just wait on them. And it's kind of like this. But I think when you reach $1 million, that's the point where you're buying a house, you're doing things where it's like, yeah, that's a significant amount of money, obviously, to really change your life.
110,000 is a significant amount of money as well.
Well, it is, but again, it comes back down to 110,000 is a significant if you need that money right now. But the reality is something like that could easily be worth $500,000 later. So people do that equation in their heads and they go, well,
but that's not. But in
what
the
am I going to do with this?
In collecting games, like that's not traditionally been the case. Like we've seen, obviously things like Nintendo World Championships and those
27K or something,
super rare game, the super rare ones. Yes, but not a copy of Super Mario Brothers.
And just calling that out, Swinny, because that's a beautiful kind of way for me to interject into this point that there's almost two channels around collecting vintage games. So Nintendo Champions, sorry, what was it exactly called?
World Champions.
World Championship. Yeah. That actually almost isn't going up in price as much. It's, if anything, maybe going down in price, right?
Was it the one that sold for 27,000?
I can't recall, but like what's kind of happening is there's two streams of people. There's people who are collectors of retro games. Then there are people who are collectors in general, right? So these are people who have been in like baseball card collecting, stamp collecting, model train collecting, like all this random collecting stuff, like comic collecting. And I think they're looking at it and going, Super Mario Brothers, probably Legend of Zelda, these type of games are going to be, the pinnacle of this whole genre of collecting.
Yeah.
So even like the rare games are in a weird way going down in price in some instances. But this game where it's really common, there's like millions of copies of this game still. This is like going up. And for me, it's like, you kind of go, wow, how high will it go? Because this wasn't even a first print run of this game. This was supposedly like maybe a fourth print run of this game based on what they've worked out. So it wasn't even in the year that it got released in America. So it's kind of fascinating. And it's awesome. I love the story about how the guy or the girl bought it as a gift, forgot about it, put it in a drawer and just left it and forgot all about it.
How do you keep... That's the fascinating... That fascinates me in and of itself. The fact that you can keep something in a drawer for 35 years. I don't think I've ever had a drawer that I haven't looked at within a year. You know what I mean? Like, I'd remember something's there, or I'd move, or 35 years untouched. That's amazing.
I could understand if it was like a drawer in an attic or something.
Yes.
But it does seem... Look, I believe it, but it does seem like too unbelievable, But yeah, I was just looking up the World Championships. So with, for instance, using price charting's information, which, there's so few of these sold, so it's kind of like all we can go off is one sale per year or something. Yeah. Even the gold version of Nintendo World Championship, which there were only 26 ever made and given out as part of the competition, like the pricing on price charting is like 24,000 Australian 24,000.
That's
so
what I meant.
It's nothing compared to these prices.
Well, but that's the thing.
Like, I thought it was 27.
10 years ago, that was still like through the roof in terms of the value, right? Like it was always, and you can see through price charting, it's actually gone down in price based on the sales that it's had so far. So, that's where I'm kind of coming at.
$27,000 is insane, right? Or $25,000.
But I kind of
that's crazy.
But
I
understand it for something that this is that rare and is that exclusive.
Yeah.
Whereas this boggles my mind. This Mario.
Well, no, but that's. I guess maybe I haven't made my point well, but I think that's where there's two channels. There's the people who want to collect all the NES games or are really into that collecting, versus just people in general look at it as an investment, which honestly is probably a good investment. I feel like I'm look, I'm wearing a Nintendo 64 hoodie, right? Like, obviously I'm a bit of a shill for Nintendo, but I look at Miyamoto as being like the Walt Disney of our lifetime, and Super Mario Brothers is kind of like, I guess it's the one thing you would point to in 200 years as being a really critical kind of game. So,
this thing, I don't think this thing's going to go down in price. And there's going to be people who will always have insane amounts of money to pay for it. So
I could imagine it going for 10 times the price.
Yeah.
I still, the one thing, and I always mention it when it comes up, I'm still shocked that the Nintendo PlayStation sold for so little. Like, Swinny, I will never get over that. I feel like that thing should be worth so much more. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe one day it'll go back up in price. Maybe someone will make a documentary about it and then it'll go up. All right, and for our last news article. So this week we saw that Metroid Prime news. So not Metroid Prime 4, but a fan-made public demo of Metroid Prime 2D. So Prime 2D. So it's a 2D demake of Metroid Prime was released this week. So many developers have worked on this. So we should say Team SCU were the ones who released it and have worked on it for 15 years.
There's a wrestling team called SCU. Sorry, that's it.
Is that where it came from? I'm not sure where it's.
No, this team. Well, I'm assuming this team has been named that for a while. Predates the wrestling team. SCU.
Yeah, and so we've had we had actually an announcement on 1st of April about it, and everyone thought it was a joke. And then the demo came out on a forum, and it was real. So, have you guys played this short demo that's available for everyone for free?
Mike?
So Mike is saying
no,
have not,
Swinny?
No.
So I have played this. I've played this quite a bit, actually.
And I have played it as well. So I've been a good boy on this one.
Nice.
This ain't Metroid 99. This is...
No, I wanted to play Pac-Man 99, but I couldn't because I had my LA Noire game going, so I couldn't quit out of it. But what did you think of it, Swinny? Because I've played maybe half of Metroid Prime. I'm halfway through, and you've obviously beaten that game. So what did you think of this?
Yeah, I did quite a few playthroughs of Metroid Prime, so it's kind of like it's such a love for that game.
Mm.
And yeah, this from what they've shown, the demo is quite short. It covers the first kind of intro areas of Talon 4, which is after the I think Frigate Orphean like intro part of Metroid Prime, and it goes up until the first boss of Metroid Prime, which is like the Wasp Hive. It's really interesting what they've done with the controls. And initially, I was a little like, huh, and then I grew to love it. Which is currently the demo only supports keyboard and mouse, but it's essentially free aiming with a mouse cursor, which does kind of make it. It obviously feels very different than other 2D Metroid games because of that, but also feels closer to Metroid Prime because in that game you obviously have free aiming. Um, I really love this demo. There's some things that I think that didn't maybe like to me it's weird. It didn't actually feel like Metroid Prime in the way that I've read a lot of other people say this is like Metroid Prime exactly in 2D. To me, it felt like its own thing, but it did have. I could see what they were going for, and the atmosphere of Metroid Prime was there. And some of the music that they've done, and the original music and compositions and remixes and stuff, is fantastic. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. So I don't know what you think of it.
I mean, it's kind of boring, but I kind of almost echo your sentiments exactly. So I've played like half of Metroid Prime, so I've played all the bit that the game refers to, and I love the controls. I was also equally quizzical, I guess you could say, about, when they sort of say there's WASD and mouse free aim. I'm like, really? Like, and I'm a huge Metroidvania fan, debatably the biggest one. Mike says that he's the biggest one. We'll see. But I'm definitely the biggest Metroid fan. And yeah, I love this so much. I thought this is so cool. Like, and the controls are really awesome. I still feel that if you made this for the Switch, you could easily do the Shadow Complex style controls. So, your right stick is the sort of free aim type of thing. I think that would work fine. But it does kind of work better, weirdly enough. And I don't know many Metroidvanias that use... I don't play many Metroidvanias on PC for some reason. And I don't know many that use this style of controls, but I'm kind of into it, actually.
Well, one thing I didn't mention was you've got the ability to scan the environment and the items and enemies, just like it's such a huge part of Metroid Prime.
Yeah, huge.
And that's really good with the mouse free aim because then you can exactly target what you want to scan in the environment. And in the middle of battle, if you're like, oh, I want to scan this boss or I want to scan these enemies that it's shooting out, it makes it much easier to do that because it doesn't pause while you're scanning, and it takes a little bit sometimes. I do think with the boss, and this could be just because of the demo, it felt for an first boss of a Metroid game or even a Metroid fan game, maybe felt a little too difficult. Like I got through it first try, but it was like I think no. I
love Swinny so
no.
much.
I want to clarify. Like I didn't find it too hard.
This isn't Dark Souls.
This is what he's like.
Let me finish my sentence. I was saying I didn't find it too hard that it stopped me progressing, but I think that some people would, if it was kept like this, would be like, oh, that's probably a bit rough for a first boss. But it could just be because it's the demo. They wanted to give people a good challenge at the end of the demo. I don't know. So.
No, look, and I totally agree with what you're saying. And there is something weird about fan games because you get these really passionate people, same as fan translations, where it's so over the top in terms of like either how they translate a game and they throw 100 references to something in like a little footnote. And like a lot of fan games, because these people are so into the game, they always find the games too easy. So if you play any Pokemon fan games, they're like the hardest Pokemon games you ever play in your life. Because I think from them relatively, it's like the symptom of NES developers. Like they were playing so many games, they tuned the difficulty of the games for them.
To themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're really good at them. So.
Yeah, and they've already said, they always say this, then it's kind of funny actually. And I feel like that this game suffers from, not suffers, but it has that symptom. But for a fan game, this is just absolutely incredible. Like for me, the other major Metroid fan game that we should shout out is the very vaunted AM2R, which is another remake of Metroid 2 Samus Returns.
Oh, so good, so good.
I like this more. So, and I'm much more of a 2D Metroid fan. I really love this. Like, I kind of like, it's almost like it felt almost Nintendo-ish to a degree, just because it's not just going, oh, we're going to remaster something. It's actually taking some of the ideas of Metroid Prime, and then how do you, it's a very Nintendo thing to go, now I give you the challenge of making this in 2D. How are you going to translate things? How do you capture that same spirit? And like, I agree with you, Swinny. It doesn't feel like Metroid Prime, but it feels like the spirit a little bit of Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Now, like we're saying how much I love all of this stuff, I've got to bring it up, but I think these guys and girls are freaking stupid to release a demo. It's one of the most idiotic things. If they have the full version of the game, now they may have only ever built, like over the last 15 years, this is maybe all they've built, right? Supposedly it's not, but let's just hypothesize and say this is all they built, then fine. Okay, they release a demo. It doesn't go anywhere beyond this. But if they have a full version of this game, these guys and girls are freaking idiots, like absolute idiots, and they don't understand how the lore works. Because you can build something like this, release it, and then say Nintendo gives you a cease and desist, and then you go, okay, I'm not gonna work on it, right? And legally, you're fine. So your art has gone out there into the universe. You can't make money off it or anything like that, but at least it's out there.
That's what happened with AM2L.
Exactly. And to be honest, Nintendo was aware of that project, but as much as people hate on Nintendo, I don't think they're super unreasonable at the same time period. They have to defend their IP, right? And AM2R, they waited until the game was fully done pretty much and then released it, and then they got a cease and desist like the next day, right? But the game's out there and you can play it. These guys are absolute idiots if they have a full version of this game that's like a couple of months away, because it's inevitable. They're going to get a cease and desist from Nintendo. They haven't, as far as we are aware of at this stage, but they will. They will get a cease and desist because it's Samus. They're calling it Samus. They're saying it's Metroid Prime 2D. And then at that point, if they release it, they will like get into some serious legal strife.
Do you think that for this demo specifically, if they wanted to get it out there so they could get people, like, first of all, you want stuff out there because you've been working hard on something, so you want people to experience it. But for this demo, do you think they could have used like replacement assets, made like any mention of anything that was related to Metroid was named something else, and then it's like, then they could easily swap it at any time when they go to release it? Do you think they would have been fine in that situation?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so
but it would have generated no buzz. We wouldn't have spoken about it.
That's true. It's
like,
kind of, yeah.
It's really cool and everything, but there is an element of it that's extra cool because Metroid Prime and you can see what they're doing with it and the creative challenge that they have. It's just, if they've got a full game of this, they are insanely stupid.
So what if, hypothetical, just to give them some guidance, what if now they re-release the game with completely different assets? So it's basically a completely different game. Same mechanics, same everything. Just it's not called Metroid. It doesn't have Samus in it. Different sprites, whatever the case may be. But they allow fan-made mods to their game. So someone can then later just make a mod to reskin it back to Metroid.
Yeah, that's fine.
That seems like a loophole around this.
I mean, you remember back in the day with Doom, and I just say back in the day because we're going to talk about our first gaming memories as a special feature. Nice little throw out to that. But with Doom, they had really cool mods where you could play like with Alien franchise stuff, which was actually initially what Doom was meant to be. It was meant to be an Alien game, and they had the deal for it and everything, and it fell out at the last minute. But yeah, like they're not getting sued for that, because you can't control if people change it. But there's a lot of work that's gone into the art of this. I mean, this is what actually to me makes it so amazing. The art looks incredible, and that's normally what a fan game doesn't look as good normally. But I think it looks insane. So yeah, like I don't know. It's just really frustrating if they've finished this game or it's like a month away, and then they've stuffed it up because of this. In my opinion, I think that would suck, Swinny.
It would. I'm looking forward to hopefully playing a full version one day.
I hope so. Like it's interesting that Nintendo hasn't already done a cease and desist, but I don't know. Maybe they're struggling to get in contact with them or something like that. But they'd be insane if they release it, if they got a cease and desist, because then Nintendo would chase them and they would be in serious strife, like millions of dollars of strife, which would not be good. All right, let's move into my favorite segment of the week. The bargain bin. So the bargain bin for the week commencing the 11th of April, 2021. So Epic Games, as we always start with, 3 out of 10. 3 out of 10, Swinny.
Oh,
Season
it's
2.
back.
It's back, baby.
Oh, no.
It's back, baby.
I thought it was gone.
So, Mike, as you don't listen to the show, all right.
What show?
Every single week, I would talk about 3 out of 10 for like weeks on end.
Yeah.
3 out of 10. Episode 1 is available for free this week. And then next week, episode 2 is available for free. So Swinny had to stop me. And then as a one-off, I, in one episode, said, you can get all of 3 out of 10. And guess what? You can still, I believe, I checked it the other day, I can still get it. You can still get season 1 of 3 out of 10 for free.
And now you can get season 2.
Now you can get season 2 on Epic. On Amazon Prime. So, Swinny, you asked me to throw out if there's any sort of notable games that are coming for free on Prime Gaming. So if you have an Amazon Prime membership, there are free games. There are some really cool games that they've had for free in the past. They have Do Not Feed the Monkeys for free at the moment, which is actually, like, if you look at Steam, it's an overwhelmingly positively rated game. So it's supposed to be a really interesting game.
But do feed the monkeys if they've got a Neuralink implant and you want them to drop Pong.
Nice. Tip of the hat.
Well, that
for
monkey
you,
was getting fed because every time it got it right, it would.
There are some amazing memes where they've turned that into like a shisha or something. Like basically to be like Elon Musk is smoking weed and then the monkey's smoking weed.
On Steam, Halo Master Chief Collection is $25 Australian at the moment. That is an insanely good deal. And
Not bad for a full pack of cooking shows.
And you're an idiot. And it is my favorite way to play those games on PC. So probably the one FPS that I feel like you could play on console still. But on the
No, it runs at 60, I'm pretty sure.
On the Switch, Swinny's trying to throw me under the bus here. Atelier Riser, Ever Darkness and the Secret Hideout is $45. What a bargain. Until the 14th of April.
I actually bought it. Like, that is actually cheap. Like, that's hard.
Oh, what's it about?
Okay, I'll give you that, Swinny, because I did say don't put it in unless you would buy it, and you actually did. So
I always put these games with one or two exceptions where I want to put a joke one in. Like, the Atelier games are super popular, and that's a great price for it.
Oh, I thought it was Atelier.
I think it's Atelier, but I'm not sure.
Atelier.
It could be.
I love if I'm right. Saying
an atelier is in a place where you
could
build
be right.
stuff.
I've never played the games,
so wait, I'm right, Mike. Did you say?
No, I'd say it's atelier, as in, is it a place where you build stuff like
Atelier Rising?
Atelier,
who cares? Whatever.
All right, Moonlighter is $9.37, complete edition until the 27th of April.
No, sorry, the complete edition is $12.90.
Oh, sorry, good call out. Good call out. Yeah, get the complete edition, $12.90.
Workshop, that's what it means.
PlayStation. So digital wise, the Surge 1 and 2 dual pack is $28.90 until the 15th of April. Anodyne is $3.
That's a good game. Anodyne's a really cool game.
No, I think he's laughing because he's trying to pronounce all these words.
Or, that wasn't too bad, actually. Or $1.50 if you have PS Plus until the 29th of April. And Onrush is $3.50 until the 29th of April. Swinny, take away the major announcements for Xbox this week.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, we've had...
This is major.
What is he talking about? It's like the biggest game almost ever released. And then a big controversial one that's coming out.
Okay, so we've got some Game Pass highlights. So they've added Grand Theft Auto 5 back into console Game Pass, so that's available now.
I wonder for how long.
I don't know. It'll probably be for like 3 or 4 months, like short like last time. So this is the interesting one to me. So MLB The Show 21 is added to console Game Pass on the 20th of April, which is the Sony developed baseball game, which is just, it's wild that that's on Game Pass. And from what I've heard is, that Sony have clarified that it was MLB's decision to add it to Game Pass, but you've got to think at some point...
Of course.
No, but you've got to think at some point, like, how did this not line up to be also like a PS Plus game? It's like, that's just bizarre to me. Now, I think I've heard that on the Xbox website that it is actually technically published by MLB, not Sony. So
no, it's not technically, it is published by MLB.
So just whatever. It's basically...
What do you mean? You just said it's...
Man, you are so finicky about freaking
Well, he does have a lawyer,
like to be right.
partner.
Like to be right,
and he likes to be right.
Just give it up sometimes.
Let's be right instead of wrong.
So Okay, all right. You can take it on. You can do the rest of it. All right. So yeah, that's a thing. We've also got some Game Pass removal lowlights.
I want to talk about that because we rarely do this in the bargain bin, but I didn't want to do it as a segment. This is insane, Switty. The show thing. So there was a whole negotiation with Sony and MLB, and I think basically they were going to take the license off them unless they made it multi-plat, which totally makes sense, right? Because if you've got a game franchise and you're like, NBA or the NFL, why would you want it restricted to one console? It makes no sense. So you've got this crazy situation.
Well, it depends
now.
what stupid contracts they signed.
Well, no. So this was already known last year that they'd done a new deal with the MLB that it had to be multi-plat going forward.
Yeah,
and everyone was debating about what that would mean. And now I'm correcting other podcasters and other media places. So it actually has pissed me off when people talk about why would Sony put it on Game Pass, and it's like people are dopey. Sony's got nothing to do with publishing it. It's MLB that's publishing it. MLB would have done the deal with Microsoft. And in a way, I think it's smart for Microsoft to do a dick move like this because it drives a wedge for people. It's like you can get it for free on Xbox or like as part of Game Pass, or you can pay for it on PlayStation. And it sort of exposes the way that their different approaches at the moment to gaming. So not very big in Australia, obviously, because baseball's not huge here, but this is a big game for baseball fans in America. It's the only real major one that comes out. So yeah, really crazy.
Can we talk about the lowlights?
Yes, let's talk about the sad stuff, Swinny.
Yeah, so leaving on the 15th of April, we've got Deliver Us the Moon, Gato Roboto, which Integot reviewed on the show previously, and Wargroove, which is actually a neat little Advanced War style game.
Shout out to the one person that's watched that review. Probably you, Swinny. To double check it's fine. Yeah, really good game. Actually, you actually would have enough time to play it. It's not very long. So, all right, we're running long. Let's throw into our special feature. So what we're covering this week in our special feature is our first video game memory. Now, we're all old, so these are actually games that it would have come out way before a lot of people who are listening to the show were born, which is kind of wild when you think about it.
This is definitely,
Mike.
This is equivalent of like old men going for a last camping trip and gathering around the bonfire and telling stories.
Back in my day,
I have been honestly. This is the kind of segment that This is the reason why I wanted to do this whole show.
Yes.
and can I just say how funny that is?
I don't want to talk about news.
This is how funny this is, Swinny, because
myself.
I just unilaterally said last week that we're going to talk about this week because I was like, we've got nothing to say in the final segment to say what we're talking about next week. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to pull out a special feature. All right, it's going to be this one.
Well, when we were coming up with ideas for the whole Big Week in Gaming podcast, we're like, okay, these are the kind of, cool features we want to do, things that we really want to talk about. And one of them was, hey, talk about our first gaming memories, the kind of games that we grew up playing, the first few games that we ever remember. That's the kind of stuff.
Wait, first gaming memories or memories?
Shut up. So how do we want to cover this? Because I
have to redo my notes.
I will literally do like 100 different games. And it was kind of cool actually thinking about it this week because I was like, I remember this and I remember when this came out and just like all this really cool things. Do we want to limit it to like 3 games?
No, not at all. I think we need I think we each tell whatever story we want to tell about what we grew up, what the very early years of our gaming and the things that were really important to us.
Yep. All right, well, maybe I'll just start and then I'm not going to finish, but I'll like throw the first one. Because if I said the very first gaming memory, so this is like legitimately the first time I ever remember a video game. It was, and this is how old I am. It's the Atari 2600.
Yeah.
Which we owned. And very, I think, in style of Integot, instead of having like a legit game, it was like a clone dodgy game called, and I think I've mentioned it once before on the potty, it was called Mousetrap. So it's like basically a Pac-Man clone where you play as a mouse and you're getting chased by cats, right? And very much like Pac-Man. I think it's better than the Pac-Man Atari 2600 game, by the way. And it has like a bit of a different sort of appeal to it because you press a button to sort of open and close. If you imagine a Pac-Man sort of puzzle map, but more like, 4x3 style. And in the bottom left, right, and top left, right corners of the map, there's kind of like they've put doors in, like an alternating doors. So you press a button, it sort of like alternates which side will be open. Other than that, it's pretty much exactly like Pac-Man. I remember when I first saw that, my dad was playing it, and I was like really young. Like I would imagine like 4 or something like that. And I was just like mesmerized. I was like, what is this? This is insane. I can control this. Like it like blew my little brain apart. And I was like, wow. And I had to play it and I got good at it. And I just loved that so much. So that was my very first gaming memory.
So you say 2600, just to clarify, because there's a few, like from what I've seen, there's a few different models. Was yours the black one with like the rainbow strip in the front?
Yeah, it was definitely the black one.
Yeah, because
I'm just trying to look at images. It definitely wasn't the really cool kind of like wood, chestnut one. That would have been sick. Yeah, it was definitely. It's like this black one, like very. I've got an image of it. I'll send it to you guys. It's like if you go to the Wikipedia article on it, I think. It's
I know what it looks like. I know what it looks like.
That was the one. They call it the Darth Vader design. That was the one that we had. Yeah. How about you, Swinny? What's your first memory?
Oh, so we're going to go around. Okay.
Well, I'm going to come back later.
Yeah, okay. All right. So
we'll be back.
My very first gaming memory that I at least can recall is also the Atari 2600. It is also the black one with like the metallic rainbow strip. That was my first video game console ever. And the first game I remember ever playing on it was Defender. Defender was probably my first game ever, I think. We had a few games, so it's hard to know exactly which one I, picked up first. We did also have a really cool educational game called Cookie Monster Munch.
I had that as well, dude.
Yeah, and
dude, what the hell? I would never have been able to say what that was until you said it.
And
that's so crazy.
You have the control that has the number buttons on it.
That's so crazy, dude. I had that shit.
That controller was called the Atari Kids controller, and it came. You could get different overlays. So there was one that was like a Cookie Monster one. I think we had another game, but I couldn't remember what it was. And that was really cool because, like, honestly, that Cookie Monster game had some really cool, like, massive sprite work for the Atari.
Yeah.
It was really, really neat. And some of the other Atari games that were, part of, those early console days was we had some version of Pong. I don't know if it was Pong or like one of the million clones they probably made. But the other game that is just so fondly burnt into my brain and I still think holds up is River Raid.
Oh, yeah.
River Raid is just one of the best Atari games ever made. So thank you, Activision.
River Raid's good, and just like the other Atari one that I'll mention is Pitfall. Yeah. So I was at my now late grandfather's farm, and I wasn't madly into gaming. I was very little, but I remember seeing Pitfall at their house, and I think my cousin playing it. And then I played it a bit. I'm like, wow, this game is so cool. And I still think that game is one of the few Atari games that still holds up. Like, if you play it even today, it's still a really cool game.
So, like at friends' houses, so you got Pitfall, of course, Adventure. I used to play that.
I've never played that.
The Smurfs game, which was actually a pretty good platformer. And unfortunately, also E.T.
Oh, you've actually seen a copy of E.T. in the wild. Cool.
Well, yeah, as a kid, yeah.
Nice. How about you, Mike?
Atari as well, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I'm pretty sure it was Atari because, and I mean, it shows our age, but I think that was actually still relatively late. I mean, this was in the early 90s would have been. That would have had these experiences late 80s. I don't know. I only had it in the very early 90s.
Without doxing all ourselves, right now, like you're basically our age. It makes no difference, but you're actually a few years younger than us, which kind of does make a difference for back then, because you would have been in like communist place in Europe.
I did, where we had no games.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you would have left there and you were in New Zealand for a while.
They went outlawed. So actually my first experience wasn't there. My first gaming experience that I can possibly remember was in Germany. So we were poor, filthy immigrants in Germany back in the early 90s, and we couldn't afford an Atari or anything like that. But some neighbor in the place we were living, because it was a converted hotel that someone had bought and turned into units.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember living with my parents in just a 1-bedroom unit. So I'd sleep in a corner, they'd sleep somewhere else in another corner. They could probably only get frisky when I was at school. and I remember that
that's why you're a single child.
That's why I'm a single child. Exactly. They never had a chance to do it again. And I remember we had a neighbor who was this gypsy dude. No joke, a gypsy dude, because he was from Romania and he had an Atari. And I remember a cowboy game where you had like, and I looked it up.
This could go bad.
There was a cacti, there was a cactus, and there were like two cowboys, one on each side, and you had to like go up and down and shoot each other.
Oh, okay. I'm glad it didn't go to Wales.
No, that was it. It was just that one. And
It's
I think
Germany
the
as well.
game. I know exactly in Germany. I think the game was called Outlaw, and I looked it up since, and I'm pretty sure it was on the Atari 2600.
Sure, it's not.
Custer's Revenge.
yeah.
No, it was not that. But here's the interesting thing: because I didn't have one myself, I remember thinking it was cool, but I wasn't hooked or anything like that because I would spend so much time outside, climbing trees and running around and playing with kids outside that it didn't really click for me at the time. I was like, yeah, this is cool. I mean, I don't remember exactly what I thought because it's so long ago, but I remember not being hooked. I don't remember asking my parents to go and play it every day or anything like that. It was cool, but I was like, yeah, I've got other things to do, like climbing trees and shit. So, but that was definitely the very first memory. But things changed after that. So over to you guys.
Well, yeah, and just going off that point about, getting hooked, because I wasn't hooked on the Atari either. It was cool, but I do think actually the Atari doesn't hold up as well as the next one I was going to mention, which is Super Mario Brothers on the NES, which, we've had a previous segment just about how much it's selling for now. So this is like the first game that I was like, wow, I just like love this game. And I reckon I was in grade 1 or prep or like right at the start of school. And this started a lifetime of deceits and sneakiness that like I love this game so much. And I'm so bad at the game, to be honest, but I love this game so much that actually my little kid brain of 5 or 6 years old, I was like, I want to play this game more, but how can I play this game more? And then I was like, wait a second, when I'm sick, I can stay at home and play games. So I just need to be sick to be able to play the game.
Ding, ding,
and I remember
ding.
saying to my mum, I'm like, oh, I'm sick. I'm sick. I have to stay at home. She's like, oh, okay, just stay at home then. And my mum worked night shifts. Like my mum's like kind of crazy actually. Like when I look back and think she worked all the way through the night and then kind of was like for us, like a stay at home mom. Because she'd always be awake when we're awake.
That's crazy.
Right? And she would sleep during the day, like when we're at school, effectively for like 4 or 5 hours and then do housework and everything. She was crazy, right? Shout out to my mum. But, like, so she was asleep and I was playing this game like all day. And I'm like, this is genius. And I think that put a seed into my brain of being dodgy.
Figured it out.
But yeah, like Super Mario Brothers, what can you say? It's like one of the greatest games ever. I totally understand when people put it as the number one game of all time just because of its impact. Probably more so in a way in America because they went through the whole video game crash and this game kind of brought back gaming and who knows when it would have come back. It would have come back eventually. Still holds up this game. Still one of the most popular speed running games that's out there. A fantastic game. I loved it. It's just, it was so like... It kind of started me on that journey of being a gamer. Like this really put its hooks into me. I really loved it. How about you, Swinny?
Yeah, so the NES in general was a huge part of my childhood, but I never owned one. So I guess that it requires a bit of explanation. So back in my old childhood home, we had very good neighbors, and our families are still very close to this day. So much so that one of the neighbors actually has officiated like funerals for us and stuff. Like that's how close we are to that family. And we used to go I used to be around there like multiple times a week playing their NES. And it's like in hindsight, I'm so thankful for them to basically give me the opportunity as a kid to be able to play Super Mario Brothers, Zelda 2. Donkey Kong Jr., Duck Hunt, Turtles. Like they even had Little Red Hood, which was an unlicensed game, and so that was those games in particular, that group of games. I just that was like my education into gaming. Like I love the Atari, but that's when I knew that okay, this is something special. This is something that is just going to be such an important hobby of mine, and I just there's just something about those games. Like they, even Donkey Kong Jr., like even that game is just like I have such fond memories about sitting down in their lounge room playing that on their big TV, because we only had a tiny little TV at home. And as I said, we only had like Cookie Monster, Munch, and Defender and stuff initially. But then we would hire out an NES, and so I got to play things like Mario Brothers 2, Mega Man 2, even games like Silent Scope, which had no idea how to play, like semi-open world submarine sim on an NES. But hey, I was like 7 years old. I was like happy to play anything. So the NES is very important to me. But there is something that there is another, I guess, like a third tier of my gaming memories that I think we'll probably all get to soon as well. So Mike, I don't know if that then leads into what your next memories are.
It does, but unlike you guys, and because we've spoken about this before, I never had a NES or access to a NES. I mean, I briefly did when I lived in New Zealand through a friend, but again, it was really brief, and I wasn't really playing games as actively back then. But during that period, and sort of before and during that period, I had access to a 386. So I think that's really when I started playing games a lot. And one of the first games that I remember, we've spoken about this one before, is Gorillas. It was that Q Basic game called Gorillas that came out in like 1991, where you had a couple of gorillas and you had to enter in the angle and the speed at which you throw a banana.
I think we've had a lengthy discussion about this on a completely separate podcast a long time ago.
So anyway, back to that old chestnut, the Q Basic Gorillas game. So I grew up with PCs during that era. So I had a 386, and then we got our hands on a 486. But even on the 386, I remember games like there was a game called Superplex, where you were like this red-orange blob thing eating electronics and stuff like that. There was Prince of Persia, which a lot of people played, and I remember that immensely. There was Lemmings. I remember spending so many hours in Lemmings.
Oh, Lemmings. I used to go to the library to play that.
It was such a good game. I remember games like Flashback, which to this day is still an amazing looking game. There's a version on Switch that I highly recommend now. So they not the remake of it, but the original one you can get on Switch as well now, which is really cool. And I might actually get back into it and play it because I never played it properly recently. Games like Jill of the Jungle, Gods, and they remastered Gods recently as well.
I didn't know you knew about that game.
Gods.
That's cool.
Oh yeah, man! Like there's so many of those games. I played like hundreds of those games during that era because you would get them. I can probably openly say this, but my mom had a couple of people she worked with and stuff who would just give me floppy disks full of games.
Oh yeah.
So I would have access to all these just libraries of games. But it was interesting because I still had unlike in later years, I felt like I still had a really good balance. Like I'd played quite a bit. But at the same time, it still felt like I would go outside a lot, climb trees, do all that shit. It was amazing. And some other notable mentions. I think there's four more that I'd like to mention. One is Dangerous Dave. I don't know if you guys ever played that one. It was a side-scroller shooter dude, a guy with a shotgun going to this like haunted mansion. Commander Keen, of course. So all of the Commander Keens I played, including the one in Dreamworld, which is a bit different, but still there. And one game that I really, really fondly remember that so deserves a remake of some sort is The Incredible Machine.
Oh, yeah.
Did you guys ever play that?
Yeah, that game, and I don't know
cool
why,
game.
but those type of games have not made a comeback.
They need to make a comeback. They're so cool, and the ideas. You were talking about dreams earlier. The idea of constructing a world and stuff like that. Okay, it's nothing of the sort in terms of its complexity, but it was still that idea that you would construct your own things. You weren't just playing a game; you were actually making part of the game in that sense.
Well, they've been taken over a lot by, I guess, like the factory building style genre, like Factorio and stuff.
But it's a bit of a different thing, though.
It is, but I think
it is different. Yeah,
but I think that
mechanics.
that what they do is they kind of occupy a similar space of setting things up to be in cycles and things like that. But I know what you're saying.
It'd just be perfect for the Switch. Imagine like a modern day.
I feel like that's what
Incredible
we should rename
Machine
the show
on the
to.
Switch.
Perfect for the Switch.
Perfect for the Switch. And last but not least, I thought I'll save the best memory for last. There was a game that I will never forget, and it was called Sextris. And that's probably
straight out there.
had
Didn't it's like
the biggest impact on my life out of almost any game. And that's because Sextris, and look, I'll openly talk about it. It's probably quite obvious what it is, but basically it was just Tetris, and every time you got a line, it would reveal part of an image. And you can imagine what those images would be. Now, they weren't super duper bad. It was basically something you'd see in really softcore Playboy stuff. Like, there wasn't full nudity or anything like that.
It wouldn't even be like R-rated these days, would it?
No, it wouldn't even be R-rated, but like an MA15 kind of game if it came out nowadays. It wasn't anything that bad. There was, by the way, a Portress, which I had also played, and being the age that I was,
he's made it even worse somehow.
It made absolutely no sense to me at the time. I remember my my mom's cousin, who I guess we're second cousins or whatever the hell we are now. I remember he was there, and he was older than I was. I think he was 18 or something at the time, so he knew what was going on the screen. And I'm like tilting my head, going, "Huh? What? Like what? Well, what am I supposed to interpret here?" I get it now, all these years later.
Whenever you talked about Sextris over the years, I'd never seen what it looked like until I just looked it up last night to do our thumbnail stuff.
Oh, yeah. Sure, that's why.
But did you find the proper one? Because there's like the stupid one where it's basically people.
I found whatever Google.
That's not the one.
I found whatever Google image search gave me. Okay, so
I
had always thought that Sextris, and it's so ridiculous. Like the actual pieces were like people, and you were like,
no, there's a game like that. There is a game like that. But no, it wasn't like that. That's not the one that I
thought
played.
the same as you, Swinny. That's what I thought it was.
No. So that is not the one I played.
So kind of just going off that, and we should probably just call out because for younger listeners, a lot of the stuff in a way doesn't make sense what we're talking about because when we were growing up, there wasn't the internet as we know it now, and in fact, like there wasn't even the web until like '94. So literally predates the web. A lot of the stuff we're talking about.
None of these games existed. I mean, the internet in one form or another existed.
The internet was there, but not the web.
But the web wasn't. You couldn't get these games or anything. You had to get them off a floppy disk from someone.
And that was that's what I kind of liked about the PC. So I was also heavily into PC gaming, and with the NES, I love the NES, and then, probably won't touch on it, but like the SNES and all that kind of stuff. But that was very like, I didn't know too much about the piracy stuff on those consoles. There were things like the Dr. 64 and stuff like that, but, basically it was like all legit, right? And, with PC on the other hand, it was like, it was crazy. It was just like a free-for-all.
Yeah.
And it was kind of cool because, we would go to like PC swap meets and stuff where you could buy PC parts and people would just like go, here's a disc, $1. Here's like, the game that I'm going to talk about now, which is like Wolfenstein 3D. So, and they had this concept of shareware back then, which in a weird way doesn't even exist today. It's like you do have demos every now and then, but demos are kind of gone out of favor now. I guess games are so cheap these days, but I remember playing Wolfenstein 3D and I got the like shareware version. I think I was sold the shareware version where it was meant to be free, right? And like Wolfenstein 3D, I think even to this day, now that, there are actually sort of like a new series of Wolfenstein games, I still feel like people don't understand its place in gaming and really created the complete bones of the first-person shooter genre. And it was really until Doom came out, which I think everyone regards as the sort of the granddaddy of first-person shooters. The thing about Doom is just the way in the artistry and just the presentation, the sound, the music, it just all took it up another level altogether. So it just became a massive hit. But yeah, just going back to Wolfenstein 3D, I love that game so much.
Yeah.
And I do need to find this and dig this out. But, thanks to my parents for this, but we actually... sent off to Texas to get, and money or something, like a check or something like that, right? To get Spear of Destiny, which is like the sort of spin-off sequel to Wolfenstein 3D. And they sent them from Texas themselves like the actual floppy disks, like hand done.
You know what that reminds me of? And this is obviously slightly later. I got my hands on a copy of Duke Nukem 3D.
Yeah.
And it was actually, it was funny because I was 13 at the time, I think, 12 or 13. And I walked into the store, I saw the copy. I had played it at my mate's place and I said, I got to get this game. It's incredible graphically and, all those other things in it. And the guy's like, are you 15? I'm like, yeah, look at me. And lucky I had, a little fluff growing on my chin because I matured earlier than other kids in that sense. So I looked like I was 15. It was fine. And I remember getting home, putting the game in, installing it, and I'm like, where are the titties? Where are the strippers? What's going on here? I've been ripped off.
I wish I could name the episode Where Are the Titties?
So I was sitting there totally confused. And again, no internet. You can't just search and go, where are the titties on the internet? You can't do that. They didn't exist. So I looked at the back of the game because I bought the physical copy, obviously. And I looked at the back of it, and it had the local distributor of the game, and it had their contact details. So I'm like, all right, I'll just call them up. So I called up the local distributor of Duke Nukem 3D in New Zealand, and I'm like, hey, I got this game, but it looks like it doesn't have everything. Like it's missing all the the textures and sprites and stuff of the strippers and other things. And the lady's like, no worries, we'll send you a patch.
Oh, God.
I swear to God. I was like 12, hitting on 13 at the time. They sent me via post a floppy disk with the patch, the adult mode patch for Duke Nukem 3D. the local distributor of the which is like, first of all, they didn't give a shit about my age. They didn't verify anything. They just sent me an envelope with the floppy disk. I put it in, patched the game, bingo, done. That's funny. You cannot get that anymore. Something like that does not exist. There is no such thing. That experience cannot be had ever again. So
that's awesome.
Back to Wolfenstein. But yeah, that was so
cool.
And
then just on that one quickly, when I went to a friend's house, I remember which friend it was, and he had a better PC and he had Doom running. And when I first saw Doom, and he got it really early on, I was really blown away. I was like, whoa, I've got to get this game. I was
incredible.
Super into it. And maybe I'll throw to you, Swinny, next.
Yeah, so we'll talk about those, different tiers of my childhood gaming. So the Atari, the NES, and then the third one, which is PC gaming. But just before I mention that, I just wanted to give Sega a little bit of love. So I never had a Master System or a Mega Drive, but my friends did. So I used to always, when I went round to their place, play Alice Kid Miracle World. And Hang On and things like that. So the Master System was a big part of my gaming upbringing as well, but also a little bit of Mega Drive, maybe a bit later, but getting to play games like Streets of Rage 3, Columns, the awesome version of Aladdin on Mega Drive and stuff. But with PC gaming, so my family from memory was one of the first kind of in our area to really get a PC at home. And it was an Amstrad, and I'm not sure. I've gone back and forth. They look very similar. I'm not sure if it was an Amstrad 1512 or 1640 or however you say it. But essentially, it had 4 colors. It had white, black, purple, and teal. And I got to play some absolutely amazing games on it. And this was my first experience using any kind of DOS-style operating system as well. But games like Prince of Persia, California games, Test Drive to Alley Cat, which is amazing.
Oh my god, Alley Cat! I was going to ask you, did you play Alley Cat?
Yes, Alley Cat. Yes. Sokoban, which is an awesome.
Oh, Sokoban!
Whizball, Whizball, which isn't a very well-known game, but I love Whizball so much. But there was one specific game that I couldn't remember the name of for 20 years, and I finally found it recently, and it was called Into the Eagle's Nest. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard of this game, but it was awesome. So it was a top...
It's like some nasty game?
Yes. It was a top-down shooter, like Gauntlet style, where you're escaping from a Nazi prison, and you get revenge, you save prisoners, you unlock doors, eat their food, you collect their gold, and it's just
eat the prisoners' food.
The Nazis' food.
Collect the prisoners' gold.
You sound like you're are we the baddies?
Yeah.
Are we the baddies?
But it was the sound effects of that game are burnt into my brain, and whenever I look it up, like all of the screenshots look, because I was only having that 4-color monitor. It's they
came up all Nazi.
All the images look so much better, like because they're on better machines and stuff. But Into the Eagle's Nest was awesome. But probably the most fond early PC gaming memories for me was for probably one of the best Christmas presents I ever got, which was a Sierra adventure game triple pack that we got for Christmas that had King's Quest 2, Space Quest 2, and Police Quest 2. And
those were amazing games.
They were so amazing. And again, we only had that like 4-color one, and so I'd look at the back of the box and be like, oh my god, this game looks so much better on these other computers. But like Police Quest 2 especially, such an amazing game, and there's so much I didn't understand at the time, so many of the jokes that I didn't understand, and it was almost like just I learnt so much from that game. It sounds so ridiculous, but it's like watching Pulp Fiction when you're young. You're learning stuff that you've never heard about, and it kind of introduces to you in a way that some people would think is inappropriate. It's like a kid shouldn't be learning. Like with Police Quest, it's about you investigating murders, and it's pretty serious stuff. But it was such an awesome experience. So that is probably, those three things, the Atari, the NES, and my Amstrad PC were my early gaming memories that I fondly cherish.
I remember because we grew up together, and I remember because I never really got into the sort of point-and-click adventure games. I never really had them, I should say. But yeah, I sort of did, right? But it was sort of like that back in the day because the internet has unlocked so many things, now you can find content that suits you and YouTube videos and everything like that. Back then, it was almost like just you're picking things at random. It's like, oh, I want to buy this game. I don't really know that much about it, or I'm reading about it from magazines, but you don't understand as a kid that, by the way, the magazines are getting paid off by the publishers, or they'll have deals, and they kind of have to say this game is good even though it's terrible.
I used to love going into Tandy and seeing the PC games there, like Tandy doesn't exist anymore, but that was a thing back then,
Yeah, and because we're in Australia, it's like kind of odd because we sometimes got stuff from the US that didn't really translate into Europe, and then vice versa as well. So PC gaming and like Commodore 64 was actually super massive when we were growing up. I didn't really see a lot of that just because I saw it at my cousin's house, but we didn't have one. We were always like from the start, 286, 386, 486. We were always on like sort of Intel all the way through. So I didn't see a lot of those games. But I always remember Swinny growing up, and you always talk about like Space Quest, Police Quest, all those kind of games. I actually want to play them one day just to see what they're like.
Oh, they're still. I reckon they're still good games to this day. I mean, some of the remakes of some of the classics, like Monkey Island, they were remade relatively recently, and they're totally worth picking up. They're still hilarious to this day, I think.
But the last one that I just wanted to touch on, and then whatever you guys wanted to throw out there, was again a different sort of format, which was arcade. So I remember, because arcades were much, much bigger when we were growing up, and probably even bigger before our time, but they're still really massive when we were growing up. And for me, like the game that blew my mind, there's probably two, but one in particular was Street Fighter 2. Like when that first came out and just seeing that and playing it, and it was really like a different thing because arcade games generally up to that point were very solo. Like you're, playing Galaga, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, whatever it was. This was the first game that I don't want to dox us too much, but, we'd go to like, the local sort of mega sort of mall or like shopping center, like the really, really big one. And they'd have like a playtime. And I just loved how it was like, the rules, at least in Australia, were, and still are, from what I understand, if you're on the machine, so you're playing Street Fighter 2 and you win, it's like you stay on. And if you want, people would put like dollar coins lining them up, and it's like, all right, I'm going to come up next and try to beat you. And if you lose, it's like, well, piss off. You've lost. You have to get off. And I kind of love that competitive element. And there were some people who were so good at those games and plowed in like a lot of money. And then it was basically like they're almost playing for free because people would just come and like lose against them. And it was just something really cool about those kind of arcade memories.
Yeah.
Go Swinny.
No, I was just going to say, look, probably this lines up with Smash Bros. A bit, which is funny. One of the fondest arcade games as a very young kid for me was Pac-Land. Like, I loved Pac-Land so much. It is, obviously like games like Street Fighter and that. Like, the first Street Fighter was the game that was actually in the same arcade as I used to play Pac-Land. But that Pac-Land, for some reason, I just love that game. But yeah, it makes an absolutely horrible Smash Bros. Level.
And it's a horrible level as well. And how about you, Mike?
So I was just going to touch on a few games as well. That obviously Doom. I remember when I was living in New Zealand at the time. So again, not doxing myself or anything, but I lived all over the shop, and we had a neighbor that it was kind of crazy. He was really well off at the time, had his own business and stuff, and he lived in the unit next to me. And he got me a copy of Doom. Again, I think I was about 11 at the time or something. And not the kind of game, you probably recommend an 11-year-old, but I thought it was amazing. Such a cool game. So that, and graphically, that just blew me away at the time. So I remember playing that quite a bit as well. And I remember getting my hands on, again, I was actually a legit copy. I saved pocket money to get this, of the original Need for Speed. The very original.
I played the hell out of the one on PC.
Played the hell out of that one, yeah. And I kind of wish I kept the original games. Like, I don't like, I've collected a bunch of stuff in my life, but I actually wish I kept that kind of stuff.
You can't. You're a minimalist.
Well, no, I can't. Exactly, yeah. And then I remember games like Dune, which and Dune was different than Dune 2. I remember the original Dune, which was kind of more of an adventure kind of game. And then I remember playing Dune 2, which is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first, or if not, no, it might actually be the first real-time strategy game that was ever made. And I might have to correct myself on the next episode, but it's certainly one of the earliest real-time strategy games. And, that spawned the whole genre of Command and Conquer, which I subsequently played, and all those other games. And there's one game that I highly recommend you give a crack, integot, if you want to play some adventure games. And I have really fond memories of it. And it was called Darkseid. And it was based on the H.R. Giger artwork. So I don't know if he worked with, I assume he worked with the makers, because he would have done the art. And it's all his art. And it's an adventure game set up in a surreal world with all his art and stuff. And it came out, I think, in 1992. And highly recommend it if you can get it on like just DOS box or something. I don't even know how you'd be able to play it
from the makers of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Did they do that as well?
Yes, I've never heard of that game. That's a similar kind of
scary.
Cyber Dreams.
Yeah, that's
what else did
that's
they
a
do?
point and click, like a super psychological horror one. So
yeah, they didn't do that many other games since then, unless they got bought out and it turned into something else. But fantastic game, highly recommend it. Really cool, trippy, psychological horror. So yeah, those were like the really early ones. And I think, I don't know if you guys want to continue, but I feel like that's kind of like a summary of the early days, if you could call it that. Because beyond that point, it gets into more modern era where, we can start talking about Unreal Tournament and Quake and the Mega Drive that I had and all that stuff in the PlayStation 1. But I think that's not really early memories anymore.
We can say that
truly established segment by then, which I think we can talk about some other day.
Yeah, no, it was actually really cool going back. And actually, my mum sent me a bunch of photos of like, I didn't send you guys all of them, but it was like me, like as a young kid on a PC and stuff like that. I love like these old school box, beige box PCs and stuff. So
this was when you were still, not to say this in a mean way, but you were short and chubby.
I still am short and chubby.
No, because you went through this.
I'm at least one of those things.
One of those things. Not the short part, let's say. You went through this crazy growth spur when were in high school. When was it?
You're trying to dox me.
What's its relevance?
How is this gonna? How is this? What is anyone gonna do with that piece of information?
I need Phoenix right. Objection.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, this has been great, and Integot for the thousands upon thousands of hours that we've talked about video games and what we grew up playing. The fact that we both learned that we both played Cookie Monster Munch as kids for the first time on the show is a testament to why we did this segment.
We'll have to have it as a thumbnail for the segment. All right, cool. Well, that wraps us up for this week's show. Next week, we will continue our Game of Some Other Year 2011 investigation for another nominee special. So this is Australian-made, Rockstar-owned Detective Romp LA Noir. So we should have all finished it by next week. And I think it's going to be a really interesting chat, to be honest. And as always, if you want to reach out to us, hit us up on Bigwig Pod or through the YouTube comments. We will try to get back to every single comment. And if you want to help the show out, give us a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. But with that, I'll say bye-bye.
Hello.
Ciao.